Welcome back. In this section, I will talk about what is isometric view, how to set up the isometric grid. Then I will show you a finished result of an isometric room and some things inside of it like carpet, window, table, vase, and then some different tiles, perhaps a character, and then at the end I will give you a challenge and some final words when it comes to our intermediate sections. The whole point of it is that the last two sections, the RPG section and this one, is to bring you out, to make you more independent so you can study any pixel art style out there, so you can replicate it and then put your own spin on it. I hope you will enjoy this entire section and I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. What is isometric view? Well, isometric view is one of those game perspectives that is used to keep the perspective as cohesive as possible or as consistent as possible throughout the entire game. It sets a certain restrictions and limitations that will help the developers implement the features more easily. It's usually tile based, though not necessarily. What I have here is an example of such perspective. This is the isometric perspective. I will show you how to create a grid and how to start slowly building things up. Because this perspective is so easy, I left it for the last on purpose. But also at the same time, because it's, in my opinion, probably the easiest one, because everything is pretty much 1, 2, or 3. Like we did with the rocks. The top side is one color, the left side is one color or the other, and the third side is the third color. The entire isometric pixel art is essentially that. So you have the top portion of this house, the left portion, and the right portion. Just like the rocks, top, left, right, you have 3 base colors and then go from there. So the isometric is the easiest one. You don't have to think too much about other things, but because of that, the challenge for this section will also be a bit harder, because up to this point you should be comfortable with creating your own art, at least to some extent. So I decided to make things a little bit more interesting to you, to push you and challenge you a bit further so that you can grow even faster. This is one of the examples, SimCity 2000. I remember playing this game a long time ago, and this is one of those examples. Another good example would be Age of Empires. I believe this is a screenshot from Definitive Edition, so when the newer graphics came into play, but it's the same principle. So you have isometric view, you can see that you have the top side, left side, and right side, and it's even slightly visible on the other side for this specific style. Though when you look at this roof over here, you see that this side of the roof is visible but the other isn't, while for this house it is visible. So you know, there are differences in styles and what you want to achieve. Nonetheless, this is the isometric art. In the next video I will go and explain to you how to create an isometric grid, what are the differences between angles, and then finally how to make some things in isometric pixel art. I hope you enjoy them. I will see you then. Welcome back. In this video I will show you a few different examples of isometric grid and which one you should probably be using. So the way you make an isometric grid, it's quite simple. You make a straight line, remember, straight line with a consistent ratio, flip it around in the opposite direction, and you draw essentially on that grid. So to give an example, this is a straight line 1:1 ratio, it's under 45-degree angle. So first you draw these lines in one direction, then you draw them in the other direction, and that's all there is to it. In this example I've placed 2 pixels from top to down, then moved 1 pixel and then 2 pixels, etc. Again, created lines, flipped them around, created more lines. And here I've created 2 pixels in width, then moved 1 pixel and then repeated the same process. So the ratios are different. We have 1 to 1 pixel, then we have essentially 1 to 2 pixels, meaning 1 pixel to the left, 2 pixels down, and the opposite of it. So we have 2 pixels in the width, then 1 pixel on the vertical axis. And what is the difference? Well, if I remove these blocks, you'll see that each of these blocks takes away spaces of 2 by 2 tiles. So this one is 2 tiles, 4 in total. So 1, 2, 1, 2. See? At least its basis. So if I were to reduce the opacity of this, you would notice that this is where it ends essentially. But the same thing applies to these as well, because this one is 2 tiles like wide and tall, this is its base, and it's 2 tiles high, and look how tall it is, how extended it looks like. And finally this one is also 2 by 2 2 by 2 tiles, not pixels, so 2 by 2 tiles, and it's 2 tiles of height like this. So you can see 1 and 2 tiles here on the side. So all of these are essentially 2 tiles of width, height and depth. However, you can see they are vastly different. The closest one, the most balanced one, would be the first one, this one. This one looks a bit stretched, this one looks a bit squished. However, in most cases, for pixel art, isometric pixel art, you will be using this one, okay? Sometimes you will see this one as well, but most of the time you will be using this one. And this is the one I will be showing you in the upcoming videos. Few examples in this isometric grid. So it's quite simple how to set up. As I've said, just make a straight line, make a bunch of those, just make sure that the distance between them, so this distance, is always the same, and just keep going. To make this a very simple quick example, so if you draw a straight line, and suppose this is like the difference between them, you can just copy paste them and make sure you line up these things so you know that the space between these two is now identical. Then you can repeat this a couple of times. Then you can take this entire piece, copy paste it and flip it around, and voila, you have the tile grid. Of course, how wide or how the spacing between these two lines really doesn't matter to some extent. It depends on your, again, on your restrictions for coding. But even if everything is strictly on the line, there will be situations where you will be creating items and objects that are not directly on the line. So these lines are here only to indicate the tiles themselves. But for now, I believe this is it. This is how you set up your grid in different ways, very quickly, very easy. And in the next video, I will be showing you some examples on how things actually function and how to shade things. That's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. In this video, I will explain to you how I made this simple room, so to speak. Now, in previous videos, I've explained you all the different perspectives. And if you look here for this isometric view, you will see that it's mostly outside buildings. And if I go over here, you can essentially see this tower in Age of Empires perhaps. You can see it. It's quite simple to do, right? Not necessarily the shading portions, but even these buildings are like so. I won't be going into creating such detailed pictures on the outside because it's, as I said, really simple. Even here you can already see these are buildings. You can just paste some, like put some windows here, shade it in a color of a building, and you'll be good to go. However, I didn't ever show you the interior, so I want to cover that as well. And let's go and explain to you how I've made this one. So first of all, if I turn on the grid, you can see it's currently barely visible because I reduced the opacity. However, if I bring the opacity up, you can see the grid. it's the 2-to-1. It's that squishy perspective. It's essentially this one. First thing what I did when creating this house was, you can see some of its parts are on the grid. More specifically, this bottom part is on the grid and this upper part is here on the grid. These side ones are necessarily on the grid because, well, they go straight from top to bottom, straight vertically. Okay, now I'm going to reduce the opacity of the grid back to around 50, so you can at least see to some extent. And if I remove the grid, you will notice that I have the black outline on the outer edges of this interior room, and the black color is only on the outlines. As soon as I go here in the inside, you will see that these outlines are shadows but are not of black color. Similarly, same thing happens over here, that some of these are in the white color and some of these are in the, let's say, skin tones. Again, all of these colors that I've used are here from these tones, or rather the color palette that comes default with the Sprite. So I didn't mess around with the colors. I didn't create my own color palette. I just used the ones that were available to me, okay? Even though if you want to experiment with different color palettes and then not creating your own, you can just go here in presets and there are a bunch of different color palettes that you can choose upon. This one is the default one that will be loaded automatically as soon as you open Sprite. So let's break this down a little bit. First of all, the walls. The walls have a certain thickness to them, and it's the same no matter where we go. Here you can see that I will create just a new layer for the example's sake. This wall is 1 to 3 pixels like thick. This one is also 3 pixels thick, but we need to measure it not from left to right but from top to bottom, so 1 to 3 pixels. This one 1 to 3 pixels, 1 to 3 pixels. So the walls are of the same thickness overall. However, for the wall, or rather for the floor, 1 2 3 4 5 pixels. So the floor is thicker. I could have made it of the same thickness, but I didn't. So the floors are slightly thicker than the walls. All right, let's just remove this. Nice. So what was the next step? Well, once I decided the thickness of the walls, I placed white color on them to indicate where the edges are. Okay, and for the walls, or rather the floors, I placed the shadow tone to indicate these ones, so where the edges are. If I remove most of this shading, so if I go to house and just remove the shading altogether like this, this is how it looks simplified. All right, these are just some details that I'll explain to you how to very quickly and easily make, but all of them are following the grid. Now if I turn on the grid again, you will notice that some of these things go through the wall because we don't need to put everything through the grid. Not everything, okay? So pick and choose what you think is the best and place them on the grid. Some things are not necessarily directly on the grid. The grid is here just as a guideline that you should follow to make sure that the perspective matches everything else. All right. Let's go and talk about shading. The top portion is the lightest, the left portion is the mid-tone, the right portion is in the shadows. So what do I mean by that? Well, look at the top portion of this wall. It's essentially the blue color in its whitest tone. You can see it over here. So it's the lightest tone. To the left, everything that looks to the left, which would be this here, so this wall over here and this one, they are of the same color, so they are in the mid-tone. And the last one that is looking to the right, these two, they are in the shadow tone. So we have the shadow, the mid-tone, and the highlight or the light tone. Similarly, for our floor over here, we have the top one is the lightest, the left one is the darker, and the right one is the darkest. Now to separate these, for the floor, I've separated with the shadow tone for these floor tiles with a shadow color to separate it from these, let's say, ground portions, so to speak. And the way I did this is quite simple. Again, remember how to break things down. Remove the highlights, remove the details, and this is the base tone. Then I've added these things. Now, important thing to notice here is that they do follow the grid to some extent. Some of these, if I turn on the grid, you will notice that some of these are directly on the grid. So for example, this over here, this is directly on the grid. See? However, these ones in the middle are not. And essentially what I did is I created a line that's directly on the grid here. So half of them are directly on the grid and half of them are on the halfway point. So these ones are directly on the grid. So this one, this one, this one. However, the one in the middle is right between them. So it's in the middle. So half of them are directly on the grid. Sorry, that's the character. So half of them are directly on the grid and half of them are right in the middle of the grid. And essentially what I did was just created these lines from one side to the other. So these are the lines that I've created. Okay? All of these. So these are the lines that I created. I didn't yet put these lines over here because they weren't needed just yet. So once you placed all of these lines, now it's time to create these lines in the opposite direction. Again, follow just the same rule, 2:1 ratio with the straight lines and you'll be good to go. See? These are the lines. However, you can see that these happen on every second floor tile. So it happened here, then I skipped one. Then it happened here, then I skipped one. Then it happened here, then I skipped one, etc. Then I reversed the process and did the same thing for these ones. So these one do have the pattern, but these one don't. These one don't, these one don't, okay? So it's essentially just going between these two things. If I go back to highlights, and essentially it's this skin tone, so to speak. Now this one was very easy to do. Okay. One, you select with magic wand tool, make sure that contiguous is turned off, all of these lighter tones, pick the highlight that you're gonna use the line tool and just go over all of these. This way you are shading and putting highlights on these floors themselves, and you are never actually risking that you will go over these ones, even though that really shouldn't happen if you were properly making this tile. And that's all there is to it. These are all the highlights, and then on some of these tiles, such as this one, you will see that I've just completely placed it in this highlight tone. So essentially what I did was this, just color it in completely. And that's how I created this simple house. Now I'll be showing you how to create different things here, or rather how I created them: carpet, window, table, vase, tiles, a character, though we won't be actually creating the character. And just one little small thing for the wall, you can see this little bump over here, and essentially I just placed one lighter tone. As you can see, if I remove the shadow tones completely, it kind of loses its edge. So you can see that it's still here, but it looks like just it's painted on the wall. However, if you put one white color on top of it, like the light is hitting it, like it has some thickness to it, we already have this one. So that's very simple how I created this small simple room. Now remember, this is a small room. you would usually creating something that is multiple times of this size, but this is the same principle that can be applied no matter how the room is big. Alright, that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. In the last video, I've shown you how to make this isometric room. So I suppose I should rename this house into a room. And from this, I want to show you just how to add a little bit of carpet. So when making these kinds of games, you might want to create separate objects so you can move them around, but you can also make them just as a one whole scene and then have that as a one big PNG file. Alright, so here we go. This was the room, this was the carpet. Wow, really simple, right? Again, only using the colors from this color palette. And it's quite simple. Again, I just follow 2:1 ratio. The only thing that you should notice here is that, well, the thickness of the carpet, what gives it that thickness was creating essentially creating the second layer here. So this is just 1 pixel, right, of thickness. This is 1 pixel of thickness, but this last part is 2 pixels of thickness. This is what it gives it that depth. If you wanted, you could actually go even one step darker, so to speak. So you just take even darker color and create it like so. That's also completely fine. Now the good thing about this is that, well, if the carpet is on a separate layer as all the other objects, you can move it around. I can place it here near the wall, I can place it here, here. I can move it around wherever I want it to be, okay? And that's all there is to it. This is the carpet. You can place some different patterns on it if you want to. I could have just kept it very simple and essentially just place it like that, but as you see, it looks kind of flat. So you want to add a bit of thickness to it. So these ones in the middle are just for the pattern, but this outer edge is here for the thickness. And this top edge is just 1 pixel, again, tall, but these bottom left and bottom right ones are what gives it that depth. And then just added one color here. The colors used from the color palette are these ones. Again, if you color pick from here, you will notice it will automatically choose them over here as well. So if I choose this color, you will see it jumps over here with this little triangle in the top left corner of the color. And there we go. That's all there is. That's how you create a little carpet. So if I were to show you, so just use the straight line tool. So you can use the line tool, shortcut is L. Now usually it would go around in all possible ratios, but however, if you hold shift, it will snap directly to the 8 or rather 16 possible directions. So you have top, you have diagonal, and you have this, which we need for our essentially isometric grid. So with this line tool, it's so easier and faster to make, well, whatever you need. And there we go. I just created a very simple line. I can go around it and essentially take it, rotate it, connect it, and there we go. So just like that, this is the base for the carpet, as I've said. Now putting the shadows there, details, etc., you can do that very easily, but this is essentially the process. I just want to show the process how to create an isometric objects, because it's quite easy. Just follow the grid, follow the ratio that you have set up for yourself, and you'll be good to go. Alright, that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one, where I will show you how to add a window to this room. I will see you then. Welcome back. In this video I will show you how to add a window, or rather how I made it. So it's quite simple to do, really. And if I take this window, you will see that this window has a thickness to its, well, wall, so to speak. Here we have the thickness of the wall, which is 3 pixels plus the highlight plus the shadow. Here however, over here we have the highlight, we have 1 to 3 pixels, and we have this 1 pixel that really isn't shaded. So that one can certainly be made into something like this. So this is essentially respecting the thickness of the wall. That's all there is to it. However, for the stylistic purpose that I'm putting essentially black outlines only on the outer side, I've just decided to place it in the same color as the rest of these, because on a first look it might look that it's a bit too thick, that the wall on the window is thicker than the walls themselves, though that too is possible depending on how you build the structure, but nonetheless. If I turn on the grid, you will see that on the grid I'm respecting, in this case, and I'm following just along this line of our isometric grid. So the bottom of this window is here, the top is somewhere in between, it's not really necessary, and then the height, it goes directly up. So you can see that these lines are essentially directly vertical. The depth to this is quite simple. If you look and try to visualize how the window would look, or rather how would, let's say, hole in the window look like, you will see that on this side you can see this portion of the window because you are looking from this direction, but you cannot see this portion over here because it's not visible, right? It's behind this white portion. If I take this window and copy paste it, and if I want to, I can certainly place it here as well. You can see how this window over here, you can suddenly see this portion over here. Now, what I want to say with this window is that, one, you should be mindful of how thick the window is, or rather how the walls are thick, and respect that. And on the other side, think about what you can and what you cannot see. Even though isometric view is quite simple in a sense that everything is on this grid, it's sort of a cuboid, but you still have to think about which portions of that, let's say, cube-like object you can see or cannot see. Okay, that's all there is to it. When it comes to recreating this little window, it's quite simple. If I remove the highlights, you can see this one. If I remove even these ones, you can see just the outside. And even if I were to remove this color altogether, you can see that there really isn't much going on. So we have this outer edge of the window. You can see this edge, the top edge, and this left side, but it also has the depth to it. But even here we are respecting 2:1 ratio, but sometimes we don't want it to be 2:2 when it comes to the thickness. If I want it to be 5 pixels thick, then it will be 5 pixels thick. It's okay to have it like this. It's not okay to have it, let's say, like 3 like this, or 1:1 like this, because right now it's starting to become a curved object. If you are just following the perspective, then 2:2 is the thing that we should keep in mind. It's okay to leave 1 pixel out of it. Okay, then we are adding this bottom portion, so essentially where you can put your hands on, etc. And this top portion is here only where you may put some sort of curtains. Perhaps if you want to put curtains here, you can place them hanging from essentially from here, so if they might hang, etc. Nonetheless, the outside is in different color than from the wall because, well, we are looking outside. Again, I've used the same color that I've used for this top portion as a highlight, then placed some wood here and some highlights on it. That's all there is to this window. On the outer edge, however, I just want to mention that even here on the room that I've mentioned here in the video, that we have 2:2, but this last one isn't 2 pixels here, it's just 1, and that is completely okay. Just keep in mind that 2:1 ratio should be respected at all times. Alright, that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one where I will show you the table. Welcome back. In this video I will show you a very simple table in isometric view. If I turn on this little layer of the table, you can see how it looks. Again, this is very simple. It follows the same pattern when it comes to colors for our floor. So we have the darkest color is this one, and the lightest color is this one, which is the same here on the floor. Again, I'm using the color palette from the default Sprite color palette. How to make this one is again quite simple, and let's just make a replica of it. So on one side, if I let's take just some different kind of a color. I will turn off the carpet and use, let's say, a red color so you can see it a bit more differently. So how to create this? Well, first I need to decide how tall I want my table to be. So suppose it's this tall. Well, what's the next step? Well, I can take this and I want to decide how long it's going to be in both directions. So I'll take this one and I will follow the grid. So if the grid is here, let's move it right on the grid, and suppose this one is right above this pixel. Okay, this means this one is also right above that pixel if I want that width to be exactly the same. Remember that in this case I want to reduce the opacity so we can actually see these few colors, and it's important that the height of these two is exactly the same. So this one is 13 pixels and this one is also 13 pixels, because remember I've copy pasted them, so this one should be over here. So that's how we decide how tall it's going to be. Now we need to connect these two. Again, you can just use this line tool and you can connect them. Again, keep in mind that shift should be held so you can actually hit it directly. And now from this point on you can do all sorts of things. When it comes to edges, you can see how this edge is a bit different than the one over here. So on this edge we have 1 pixel here on the edge, then it goes 2, 2, 2, 2. However, over here we have 2 on this edge and it goes 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and it ends on 1. It's completely okay. We shouldn't be doing this because it needs to follow the grid. Now what is the next step? Well, to create more structure to the table, I can go and add a second pixel here and do the same thing here and add a second pixel over here, and now suddenly we also have 2 pixels to it. Now I need to decide how long I want my table to be, and remember I should also be very careful where I place it, because I do want to follow the grid. So if I turn on the grid, you will see that these ones, let's say, correspond to, well, if I turn on the grid so you can see it a bit more easily. You can see they lay on top of these, so we can lay them here on top of these as well. Now if I turn the opacity a bit down, or even all the way through, now you can see they lay on the same ones when it comes to the floor. It's essentially really important just to keep everything on the same grid in the same line, meaning 2 to 1. You could also have done the same thing by manually counting. So okay, from this point over here, you essentially have to go 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 and then 1 2. So you can see these line up perfectly. So you can do it manually. You can just move it around, like if you take this one and just you go 1 2, or rather 2 pixels, then 1, 2 pixels, then 1, etc. You can essentially do this manually is what I'm trying to say, but it's again all up to you. Now let's go back to these ones and let's connect. So this upper left pixel I can connect with this one, and the same thing can happen with these two. There we go. This is how we have a very simple table. Now you will notice that because this table, and if I use the same colors over here, that this table is slightly different than this one. And it's quite simple why, and that is that the length of the table is different. So this table is quite rectangular. It follows quite nicely when it comes to the grid. If I turn on the grid, you can see it lays nicely on one tile. Okay, this is why this top part, this last leg of the table, cannot be seen. However, this other table, if I take it and place it on the same side or even on top of this one, you can see it ends somewhere in the middle. So they are not the same, and this is why you can see this leg from this one and not from this one. Essentially, the process was the same. I created two legs and then I just brought them a bit further down the lane, so to speak, and then shaded them in. Now that's all for this video. I will not be shading this table. I just wanted to show you that if you are wondering why this table, why you cannot see its last leg and here you can see, this is the reason why it is. So if something is directly on the tile grid, on just one specific tile, you probably won't be able to see this last portion because it will be hidden, but otherwise it will be seen. Alright, that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one, where I will show you a vase for our little table. I will see you then. Welcome back. In this video I will show you how to create a vase, or rather how it's created. Here for our table, before I move on to the vase, I just want to show you that I've shaded these legs a bit differently. In the last video they were completely like that, so I just decided to shade them essentially the same as these ones as well, to keep it consistent. Alright, for the vase, here it is. It's quite simple. It started out as something round and it should be shaded as such. So rounded objects are shaded a little bit differently. It's still the same concept, but you know, you have to approach it a bit differently because it's a different object. So the vase itself, you have the top portion, which would be this over here. Oh, sorry. Actually, I may pull this vase here to the side. So this top portion over here, this is the vase, like the top portion, that's the edge of it. This inner portion is essentially the inside of the vase that you can see, so it can even be completely black depending on how you want to make it. This is the neck of the vase, so below of the entrance, where the vase is essentially becoming narrow, and then it expands, and this is all the rest of it. So if I were to take this apart, this is the entrance of the vase, like the tip of it and the neck of it, and this is the bottom part that actually holds like the water and whatever it needs to hold. So how did I shade this? Well, you can see it's quite simple. Again, I've used this color palette, and shadow goes on the right side, midtones goes in the middle, and the light tone goes on the left. Now there are different possibilities when you shade a vase or anything of these sorts, so it all depends how you want to go about it. You can leave the left side like this, so essentially you are having the complete left side, you are leaving in mid-tone, then you are placing your highlights next to it, essentially towards the middle but not completely in the middle, and then you go back to the mid-tone up here and here as well, and then on the right side and below should be in the shadow. So you know, you can pick and choose whichever style you like the most. It depends. It just really depends on your personal preference. From these two, however, you can take this one, you can take this one, put them all next to each other and see which one might work the best for you. In my previous one, I've used this one, so perhaps, let's say, for some reason I like this one a bit better, so I'm gonna place this one over here. Now, what you might notice about the vase is that it breaks a certain rule, doesn't it? So if you go and take a look at its bottom portion and I turn on the grid, you will notice that our vase is 3 pixels. So what's up with that? Should we take our vase and essentially place it like that? Should we break it in a sense? No, we shouldn't. We are following the grid to the letter, so to speak, only when we are dealing with flat surfaces. So the object that is essentially a cuboid, so it's like a cube, it has flat surfaces, we follow the grid to the letter. Otherwise, when it comes to rounded objects, you can create the rounded object, but just keep in mind that if it's a more complex object like this vase, isometric view still watches everything slightly from above. So this is sort of a RPG view when it comes to the perspective, but the object itself is slightly curved. It's slightly rotated to 45-degree angle, so to speak. Why I say this? Well, if this was an RPG, then you wouldn't really be able to see this entire room in that sense, because this room currently has, and I'm gonna be really unspecific here, this room currently is rotated like this, okay? However, in the RPG view, the room would be rotated like this. You would be looking at it straight from top to down. This is something that we did in the previous section. So this is essentially this same room. It's rectangular, but we rotated it so it became like this. So when we are doing the vase or anything like that, we still need to keep in mind that I will be able to see its top portion and I will not be able to see the bottom of the vase because of the perspective. If you want to put a ball in it, let's say a sphere, you want to put a sphere in the room, let's say a basketball or bowling ball, who knows. In that case, you really don't need anything. You can just take the sphere and that's all there is to it, okay? You don't have to follow the rules. There we go, we have a bowling ball over here. Yeah, perhaps you might want to shade it a bit. Let's say it's completely white. It has those, I believe, 3 holes. And there we go, we have a bowling ball in there. So for spherical surfaces, or rather for spherical objects, cylindrical ones as well, you need to think about those things a bit differently. Now, this is a sphere that's a bit strange, so I'll keep the vase as it is. This bowling ball is spherical. Now, what about the cylinder? Well, if we have a cylinder is taking, let's say it's a log somewhere outside. This is a log, this is a log. But how should we follow this isometric grid? Well, quite simple. Let's make it just a bit smaller. You started, let's say, here on this portion of the grid and you are ending it also here. So here and here, exactly 2 tiles, and anything in between you can just to this point, and this is how it would look like. Now you might be wondering, well, it's not really easily seen, but here we go. So that's how you would do essentially a cylinder, because cylinder is rounded but also it's straight. So it's rounded when you look at it like in its thickness, so to speak. So from left to right it's rounded, but from top to bottom, or rather from up to down, it's straight. So you need to combine these things. You can create whichever spherical part of the object you need, but for the straight portion of it you need to follow the grid. That's pretty much all of it. So now you can shade it if you want the log or whatever. Now that's all there is to it when it comes to isometric pixel art. You can go into more details, less details, etc. I'll be showing you some extra tiles and a character for this isometric view before we wrap things up. So I hope I will see you then. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. In this video I will explain to you tiles in isometric view. So they are quite simple. When you have your grid, make sure that your tiles follow them. That's all there is to it, really. So if I take this top portion of this, let's say really deep tile, you will see that this green part is laying right on top of our isometric grid. So one tile here, this is exactly one tile of our tile essentially. So you can see it's exactly of that type. Now, why is this important? If you decide to connect these tiles, that's essentially how you do it. Now, there are two ways to go about it when it comes to implementation. You can pick and choose whichever you want. This is one of them. So these are just the details on top of these, but essentially they are the same. So this is the same type of the grass, as you can see, but I just added some details on top of it. Similarly here as well. So what are the possible issues if you follow it directly as the grid is? Well, suppose I want to connect two tiles. They will overlap. So you can see that if I make this into a red color, they will overlap. So you can look, if I place it here, it no longer follows the rule because, well, it needs its space. They will essentially meet, because if we follow the rule 2 pixels, right, it will either leave one space here completely empty, or it will break here, or they will overlap with each other. Now, sometimes you might want to overlap them, and if that is the case, this is the way to go. So you can just overlap them, as you can see here, and it's gonna be perfectly fine. And you can keep doing that, and this way make sure that the last one has some shadows. However, if you don't want that and you want to, so to speak, seamlessly being able to connect the tiles, then just make sure that your tiles here do not actually meet directly on this grid, but rather you can erase one portion of it, and when you look at the grid, this is essentially how it would look like. So now if I try to connect it, you can see they connect perfectly. Essentially what I've done is that I've erased, when it comes to the grid, see, I've erased these the line, essentially whatever was here on the green tiles. If I bring it above the grid, you will see that I've erased these ones. So the top left and the top right, I've erased those portions of the tiles. So what does that mean? Well, the top left and the top right are still on the grid, and that is good. Why? Because now I can seamlessly integrate and copy paste this and just connect them as they should, and you can see they will follow this perfectly. Similarly, if I try to do the same thing here above, they will still connect perfectly. Everything will still be 2 pixels in both directions. Okay, see, no matter how I connect it, they will seamlessly blend in together. So that's one way to do it. This is just one small tip that's kind of important with tiles and isometric view. You can either overlap them, or if you don't want to overlap them and you want to make sure that the tiles themselves work nicely as a tile map system, well, in that case, just erase the top left and top right corner of the grid itself. When it comes to the thickness of the tiles, you can go with any thickness whatsoever. This one is here just for an example. Just try to keep them the same. If in the game you have one tile like this and one tile like this, it might be cool to see some river flowing beneath this. Perhaps if this wasn't a grass but rather some kind of a bridge, that would be cool. Just an idea. But yeah, that's essentially how you would go about creating tiles. When it comes to tile sets and tile maps, it's the same as everything up to this point. You need to just follow along and make sure that everything blends in nicely. However, Sprite nor Pixel Edit, they don't have the option to create tile maps when it comes to isometric view. There are other possible software possibilities out there, but I don't currently want to overwhelm you with all of those. This is the principle of how you do it. It's quite simple, it's quite fun to do, and just go around and play around with it. You can create scenes like this. You can create these types of tiles. They can be thin, they can be thick. It's all up to you. That's all there is for this video. I hope it helped you out. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. In this video I will show you a character for our isometric room. And it's quite simple, as you have noted in the previous little hint. Yes, it's our character. Though in this scenario he looks more like a child than he does as an adult, because of, well, how tall he is in comparison to table and window. But regardless, this is the secret behind it. Isometric characters use those diagonal movements. So if you have made the character that uses diagonal walk cycles, that's all there is to it. This is the same walk cycle that you can use here in this room. And this is also the same reason why I've used the same color palette. Because the colors on the character are the same that are used here in this room. For example, if you take a look at the table or the floor, you can take these colors that are used here as a wood, and these are the same colors used on the character. This is also a small tip here, that how the colors feel and what sort of a texture they represent is also highly dependent upon the environment and the context that you put them in. So if I have a humanoid and give it a color of a skin, it's a skin tone. However, if I put it here as a furniture, it will look like it's wood, even though they are completely the same color. So this is my, let's say, final little tip. If up to this point you have practiced the diagonal movement of your characters in the RPG, you have everything you need for the isometric grids as well. That's all for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. For this challenge, I would like you to create an isometric room. I want this room to be at least twice as big as this one. I would like you to put some details in there. Maybe place a TV. Maybe put some patterns here on the wall. Maybe put some flowers in the vase. Maybe create a family here. Maybe a couch. Who knows? Put whatever you want in the room, but create a nice, decent room. Also, I would like you to create an isometric grid. Create a very simple structure, very simple building. It can be a skyscraper, for example, so you don't have to think about the roof and stuff like that. And make it in all three of these isometric grids. So create it when it's in this isometric grid, create it in this one and this one. Use the same colors, try to recreate the same building so you can see how the isometric grid actually distorts the perspective of our object and in what way. So these are the two main important things. Now, the reason why I haven't gone into too many details when it comes to isometric grid and isometric view is because it's the easiest one when it comes to creating objects, but it's the hardest one when it comes to creating animations. This is why I created the diagonal animation in the previous section, so that at this point you should already be comfortable with creating the characters with walk cycle for diagonal movement, so that the transition to the isometric view is as easy as possible. That is the challenge for you, because all the sections from this point on, or rather all the future sections, I will be diving into more advanced stuff, and for those things you should be able to look at my work, pick things that you like and be able to integrate them into your own style. Take things that you like, remove things that you don't like. I'm also, when it comes to pixel art, just an artist. I do have some styles that I prefer more than the others. I usually tend to think more about the game design and how it will function in the game as well. So I usually integrate design into my art. So some things, even like that, there are some things that you will like and some things that you will not like. This is the last section where I can actually help you to break free from constraints of following just lessons to the letter and just trying to replicate pixel by pixel. Because if you are creating only one style all the time, just following one tutorial and just trying your best to replicate everything pixel by pixel, you are still at a very beginner level, and that's completely fine in the beginning, don't get me wrong. But as you move on, as you grow, you need to become independent. The previous section, the RPG section, and this section serve as a sort of a breakthrough for yourself, where I want you to become a little bit independent in your own style, in your own research. I've shown you the end result, and then I've broken it down for you so you can start creating an image in your head. Whenever you see pixel art out there, you can already start to visualize and break it down into small digestible chunks, so that one day if you want to recreate that style, that you know how to do it. So that's all there is for this video. I have given you this challenge. I hope you do well in it. Please share it, and I will see you in the future videos. But remember, relax and have fun. Welcome back. In this lesson I will show you how to create a high resolution pixel art sword. So let's go and start creating it. Now I will be using Photoshop, though you can use any software you like. Keep that always in mind. I will be creating a canvas which is, well, let's say width should be 100 and height should be 250. This will be more than enough. On one layer I will keep my colors, and you can see them here. I will be providing this color palette in the resources if you wish to know which they are. But very quickly, you can see the background will be extremely dark blue color. The hilt of the sword, or rather the handle of a sword, I'm sorry, will be in the brown colors. And you can see the edge of the sword is going to be from completely white to extremely desaturated and lighter tones of blue hue. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go and create our background. And it's going to be this color, just like so. On a new layer, I want to have my sword, and we'll be using just one layer. We won't be using like multiple layers, since we don't actually need them. Alright, going from the top, I will be using maybe the entire height of this image. So let's go and pick our, well, we can start with our mid-tone, and from the top I want to put 2 pixels. This will be the tip of our blade, and I want to taper it down on each side by 3 pixels, like so. But I don't want it to be like this, because it's going to be too blunt. If I just extend this blade, you can see it doesn't look just right. So I want to taper it down using 2 pixels at a time. So 2 pixels at a time, and as you can see, this will create a very nice edge or tip of our blade. I won't be using this entire piece, so let's go down most of the way. This is a rather long blade, so I'm just going to reduce it a little bit. Yeah, this should be fine. All right, so since our highlight is going to be coming from the left side, or rather our light source is from the left, I want to have my left side here in the white color, or our lightest tone. And here from this middle point, I just want to go all the way straight down. And the next to it, I want to be using our second most lightest color, which is this one. And again, go straight down. Like so. You can already see the blade is coming into shape. Now I'll use this exact second lightest tone and close off the left part of our blade. And for the right side, I will be using the mid-tone, which is this middle color. Actually, let's, yeah, it should be just fine. Okay. All right. Now let's go and start shading this blade because we need to give it more depth. This darkest color, so this one, I won't be using on the blade itself, on this portion of the blade. I will be using it later on. So for the left side of our blade, we want to be using these three colors. And for the right side of our blade, we want to be using these three colors. Okay, so starting from this middle portion, we want to take this mid-tone and let's say from this portion all the way down, we can actually go and put it all the way down like so. Okay, so what does this create? Well, it creates a nice depth because the middle, or rather the spine of our blade, is going to be thicker and then taper down towards the edge of the blade. So this is why we put highlight here on the top and then darken it down a little bit so we can get that really cool effect. On this top portion, I just want to completely shade this part in white and take our lighter tone and just slightly fix it. I might want it to be a bit higher. Excellent. Now for the right side of the blade, we want to be using the similar trick, but we will be using this darker stone. And from this same portion, we want to go all the way to the bottom, like so. And already here we have a really nice blade. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, we need our handle, which we will be using this part, but before our handle comes the hilt. So something that will protect, well, in reality, people use it to block other blades. So for example, if someone will attack you, you can block with the handle. So you can stop the blade from sliding down on your arms. So I'm just extending it down a bit further, and let's say, well, maybe I'll do just one side and let's see how it goes. I'm just looking at the overall. Yeah, all right, I think this should be fine in regards to the length. And I'm always checking the thickness. Now you can go over here and create like a little, I want another one like so. Okay, I quite like this one. And we can just duplicate it, flip it around horizontally, and put it here on the other side as well. Okay. Now you can see our hilt isn't shaded just yet, but it will be. But below our hilt, I want to block out our handle, and it's going to be slightly wider than our spine. So the spine is 2 pixels, so we will keep our handle here at the top 4 pixels, so 1 pixel wider on each side. Be sure to center it, because if it's not centered on the double-edged sword like this one, it's not really practical. Now I want to block out the length, and since this is a rather a long sword, I want to keep my handle a bit longer as well. So let's go with something like this. Yeah, this should be just fine. And then we also need a pommel. Pommel is a part of the sword that on one side it stops from sliding your arm down, but at the other you can also use it for hitting others. So yeah. So let's start with slightly wider portion, then we can extend it by 1 pixel. Then you can use 2 pixels as extension, then we can use maybe, let's say 4. Let's make it 5. Then 2, then 1, and then 1 again. And we can see this is a rather big pummel, so I kind of want to reduce it. I overdid it a little bit. So let's go to something like this. All right, this looks quite a bit nicer. Okay, so let's go and start shading our handguard. Again, since the highlight is coming from the top left corner or from the left side, I do want to shade this sword like that. Now on this portion, I do want to use the darkest tone possible we have for our metal. And I will just go on this portion and just fill it in like so. And maybe on this side a little bit more. Okay, now I take this portion, which is basically just one color lighter, and go over these parts as well. Excellent. Now I'll be taking the midtone. Well, midtone is basically already here, so I'll take the lighter tone. And light this entire top part. Again, this is just laying the colors. I will be fixing the shading a bit more later. All right, so let's start like so. Okay, you can already see that our handle has a nicer shading to it. Really cool. Now here in the middle, I kind of want putting some kind of protrusion. Let's say it's squarish. I do want to put it a little bit more. Yeah, this looks quite a bit nicer. Now I will come back to this part later when I start texturing our sword, but for now let's go to the handle. So far we used only the mid-tone. Now let's go and use the shadow tone. Okay, so basically I'm just blocking out these portions. Since the light is coming from the left side of our handle will be lighted, well, in the highlight. All right, so picking our highlight color, we can actually go and shade our part of the handle here, but I do want to make it a bit more interesting. So let's say our handle has the wood on our handle has some kind of protrusions to make it easier to handle. Something like this. Yeah, this looks really cool. All right, now I do want to shade, since this is sort of a spherical shape, I do want to shade it like so. And in order to emphasize this part, I do want to put some light here as well. As you can see, it already pops out. If I just keep it in the dark, you can barely see it, but as soon as I put some lighter tones to it, you can immediately see how nice it looks. Okay, I'll keep it. And time to put some of these highlights here as well. Alright, so for now we have our basic shading after we finish this pommel part. Now the pommel, I want to have the similar approach as for the handle, but I do want to have some sort of a highlight. So I'll just put one little spot over here and then use the second lightest tone to start spreading it out in sort of a star shape. Then we have our mid-tone, then we have our shadow tone. And we also need our darkest color, which is this one. Now usually people would put something like this here on the bottom, but I want to keep one part, so just one pixel here at the edge in a lighter tone again, so it can be easily so you can see it a bit more easily, so it pops out from the background. Okay, all right, so all by itself this already looks quite nice. The handle is a bit weird, but we'll fix it in just a moment. Now it's time to texture our sword. And how can we do that? Well, if we want to give it sort of a more worn out look to it, there are many different approaches. First, I will take not the mid-tone, but rather this same tone over here and put it here all the way on the edge as well. Let's fix that and use just slightly lighter tone. You can see the difference. When you use the lighter tone, it immediately fixes the shape and you can see everything quite a bit easier. And I want to do the same thing here. So we have our really nice blade. I just want to break the symmetry. Now it's time for the fun part. Take this middle tone and just put few holes, so to speak, along the side of the edge of the blade. Not too much, like maybe 4 to 5. And then put few dots. Again, maybe few of those. It's quite enough. Now take this darker stone and make sort of a transition over here, but let's keep it angled to the top. Don't put it on all of these places, so let's say in this example I don't want to put it here, so maybe on every second one. And you can always keep few pixels completely free. Now this already looks quite a bit nicer. And now you can also do the same, but not all the way to the edge. Again, just in few places, not too much. And you can already see how our sword is starting to look quite a bit nicer when it comes to the texture. Now if you notice some places where you can decrease it, please do so. Maybe put 1 or 2 dots here and there just to break it apart again. Now the sword that has been used for quite a long time will have maybe a chipped edge, so if you do want to put that, just take the darker stone, decide where you want it to be, and you can put it like so, and you can already see the chipped edge is here. Though I don't want to put that on this sword, feel free to do so. It's quite easy to do. Alright, now we will do the same thing here to the other side. So pick few spots to create those holes, so to speak. Then put few dots here and there alongside the edge. And then take this darker tone and just fill in a portion of that hole that we made previously. Again, don't put it on all of them, and just again put just few dots here and there like we did here on the other side. So we'll take this middle portion, put it here and there, and already our sword looks quite a bit nicer. Now let's go and fix our handle, since we do want those as well. Again, you can use those dots. Now on worn out metal, using this isn't dithering, because dithering is used to put a gradient between two colors. This is sort of just putting a bit more texture here on the sword. Now on this portion I do want to fix these parts. All right. So far so good. Now I'm just messing around a little bit with the shading. Again, you can always go around and fix few things. All right, so this looks quite nice. I do want to just slightly introduce again few of these just to break this completely nice highlight. Maybe put few of these here and there, and this looks, I'd say this looks finished if you ask me when it comes to the handle. Now we can maybe introduce just a few more of these. Excellent. Now, since this is extremely worn out sword, this is why I want to put so much noise on the handle. Otherwise, you know, it's not necessary. You can keep it quite a bit cleaner. Same goes for the edge of the sword and the blade of the sword. But you know, I want to shade it like so. Now when it comes to the wood, we just want some strands, and again just few dots here and there to indicate sort of those mini strands, which is quite nice. Again, we can break the highlight if we wanted to. All right, so this entire sword looks quite a bit nice, but The bottom part of our sword, so rather this pommel, it looks a bit too clean. So I just want to, similar thing, I just want to introduce a few of these dots to texture it a bit, so it looks kind of bit older, so to speak. Yeah, this is quite nice. And all right, so just like that we have our finished high resolution sword. So we started very simple. We put the blade down, then we put the basic shapes for the handle and for the safeguard and the pommel, the guard of the sword. And now we just put some shadows, some highlights, then we texture it lastly, and we can always go back and fix few things here and there. Now if you wanted to change this sword or you want to change the background, feel free to do so. In the games people can always put some sort of a cursed sword if they wanted to for some reason. You can use some blood on the sword as well. I mean, it's kind of all up to you. You can really do whatever you want to. So is it bloody, is it not bloody, is it chipped or isn't chipped? Maybe this one had a good blacksmith, so there are no chipped edges. Do I show you how to do that? All right, this is it for this lesson. High resolution sword completely done. Until next video, see you later. Welcome back. In this section I will talk about freelancing, how you can make money, how to talk to clients, what should be your mindset in order to be successful in this field, and even what is success. And I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying, because even though I want this section to be still relaxed and open communication, I do want to point out certain things that really are not a joke by any means, because this is something that will make or break your potential career in pixel art, be it long term or short term. So again, please do pay attention. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go and start talking about freelancing. Welcome back. In this lesson I want to explain what is success. So by definition, success is an accomplishment of a certain act or purpose. Basically it means you are successful if you achieve your goals, whatever those goals may be. This means that success is very subjective and you shouldn't really follow other people's definitions of success, so to speak, or rather their goals. Let me give an example. What do you want to be in the life? What do you want to achieve is probably very different from someone else. And this means you shouldn't be aiming for the same stuff they do. I mean, if it happens, it's okay, it's good, but you shouldn't really be copying anyone. You should ask yourself what are your goals and then how to achieve them. And each time you succeed in achieving your goals, you are successful. It's quite simple, right? And I want to make sure that you understand this before we dive into how to be successful in a financial way. I consider that you need 3 big things in your life to be in order for you to feel happy, fulfilled. Number 1 is, of course, being healthy, so having healthy body and mind. Second one is the emotional part of your life. So this can mean love towards your parents, siblings, maybe towards your passion like art or coding, maybe towards your partner. There are all kinds of different loves, and they are different in certain ways, but essentially you need that emotional part in your life. And the third one being, of course, money or financial or material gains and stability. So your financials, your emotional life, and your basically health, they can be in different, let's say, magnitudes. And we all have different aspects that we consider for each of those fields. For example, I might consider that I want to have healthy body, so I train. Other people might not consider that to be so important, so they train less or they don't train at all. Some people might consider the emotional part to be the most important thing in their lives and just have enough money to survive for their basic needs, maybe a little bit more than that for occasional vacation and something like that. Some people might consider the money to be the most important things, and they want to be millionaires, billionaires, even if they sacrifice their personal life, all the relationships, and even their health. And that, again, it's all okay. It's your life, you can do whatever you want to. But I want you that you should understand that those are the three main parts of your life, like big sections. And you should find your own balance at what you consider to be success. Don't aim, let's say, in pixel art. I'll explain this in future videos, that in the upcoming videos, that basically the top tier paying pixel artists are usually $50 US dollars per hour, something like that. Of course, you can go higher, but when you are in that rank, you can be considered a master of pixel art. And you might not want that, because that requires a lot of time and energy in order to achieve it. And so you might be completely okay with $10 an hour, depending again where you live, because this will also influence your decision. But essentially, the more time you spend on the money and earning money, the less time and energy you have for the emotional part and for the health. And it goes in all directions. So again, what is success to you? You should ask yourself that and answer that question very honestly with yourself before you move on to the next video, because this will influence how hard should you actually build your freelancing business and in what directions, because there are many directions where you can go, and some of them require little time and energy, and of course you will earn a lot less money. And there are those paths where you actually invest a lot of time and energy and thus earn a lot more money. So I want you to ask yourself how big of the money is important in your life and how much you want to be earning. Do you want to be earning $10 an hour, 20, 50, 100, $1,000 per hour? Ask yourself that question. And once you find out the answer, then move on to the next video. I'll see you in the next one very soon. Welcome back. So in the upcoming videos, I will explain what are the general guidelines for success. And this not only applies to pixel art, this also applies to all other fields. So if you are a coder, developer, maybe you're an athlete, whatever it is, this will apply to your field, because these are again general guidelines to success. This is something what should actually be in your thought process, how you should feel about things, and what basically you should be doing, and what kind of a work ethic you should have in order to become successful. Because there are only 2 to 3% people on this planet on average, according to statistics, that are capable of being freelancers and entrepreneurs. I want you to be very well aware of that. Are you one of those 2 to 3% of people? Because if you are not, then you should be really working towards being those 2 to 3% people if you want to. If you don't want that and you want to find a secure job in a certain company, so working 8 hours a day or even more, that's again completely okay, because that's what most people do. But in that case, if you want something more and you want to become a freelancer, then follow these guidelines. So the first one will be grinding. The second one will be actually focus. The third one is going to be going outside your comfort zone, basically defeating your fears, or rather overcoming them. And the fourth thing is going to be getting feedback from other people. All right, so let's dive into each and every one of those in more detail. So let me explain to you how they actually work. Welcome back. So let's go into general guidelines, and the first one is grind, or basically working hard, working a lot. And this by itself isn't actually the key to success without applying other things, which I'll explain really soon. But you essentially really need to work a lot in order to achieve goals. So let's go and put this into an example of pixel art. Let's say you want to become a master of pixel art. So you want to be able to create high resolution environments, highly detailed characters, nice fluid animations, special effects, etc. It will take time for you to learn all of those things. There are no shortcuts. I already said this at the beginning of this course, that maybe 5% is theory and 95% is practice. And this really applies to pretty much everything. Think about this in terms of, let's say, being an athlete or a bodybuilder. You will need to know certain theory like what is the correct way and the best way to run or pull weights or whatever. But you are not getting anywhere if you don't practice. You need to run, you need to exercise, and that is the same thing that applies to pixel art. You need to practice. If you just watch through the videos and then don't apply it, don't actually do the challenges, which is the main reason why I've put challenges in beginner and intermediate sections. If you don't do the challenges, if you don't practice, you're not going to improve. Just as easily as you have memorized the theory, just as easily you will forget it. You need to put things into practice, and this is what it's called experience. So you need to experience things by yourself in order to be able to use them in your life efficiently. Let's talk about right now in, let's say, an imaginary world. Let's say you are a wizard and you want to climb a big tower, and the tower has many floors. And on each and every floor, you will earn $1 per hour more. So on the floor 10, you will earn $10 an hour. On the floor 50, you will earn $50 an hour. And it simply takes a lot of time for you to get from level 1 to level 50, the floor, right? It takes time. You cannot just put some type of code or cheat code in your life and you'll be that good. It doesn't happen. You need to work hard. You need to invest time and energy into it in order to get what you want. Just as in games, for certain things you simply need to grind. Same thing happens in life. This is why I've said it's extremely important that you relax and have fun. Because if you're not having fun, if you are miserable, then you should probably question your decisions whether or not you should be doing this for life, for earning money. Because if you're not having fun doing the challenges by yourself and creating whatever you want, try imagining how are you going to feel when you have to work and create something by someone else's vision. So let's say you think the character would look cool if it has a cape and your client doesn't want a cape, or vice versa. You don't want the character to have like a complicated armor or complicated design, but the client really wants it. Are you gonna have fun doing that? Well, probably not. So you really need to be relaxed and have fun. Again, this is really important because it's not the goal itself that matters. It's all of the things that you did to get to that goal. Basically, it's about the journey, not to the end. And let me give you an example. So let's say in the morning, you want to make a breakfast and you make it, and it took you maybe 5 minutes to do the breakfast. And because it's such a small goal and it required such low amount of energy and time to invest to achieve that mini goal, your satisfaction out of it is also small. Let's go a step further. Let's say you are going to school. You've been 4, 8, 10 years in school, who knows, and you are finally getting a diploma. It feels a lot better because you have invested a lot more time and energy in it to achieve that goal. If you go even further than that and you talk about business which you have been building for 5 to 10 years or maybe 20, 30, and once you think you have achieved your goal, try imagining how that would feel. And it feels better the longer the journey and the harder the journey, the better it's going to feel when you accomplish your goals, right? And it simply takes time to accomplish big goals. So if you are aiming to get to the 50th floor, be ready on a long journey. It might take you a year, 2 years, 5 years, who knows? But essentially, I think you can get to that level in a few years if you really practice everything and develop all the skills you need, plus freelancing and how to sell yourself, etc., which I'll cover later on. But essentially, it will take time. Do not be impatient and do not be lazy. If you are lazy, you are not getting anything done, which in the long term is really detrimental. If you are impatient, that can be just as detrimental because it's going to be stressful and you're gonna burn out probably. And if you burn out, well, then you have creative problems, which then you need to move away from those blockades. And the way you move those blockades is by relaxing. And again, start having fun. All right, this is it for the grinding. So this is the first guideline to be successful. Please do keep in mind that you will need to work hard in order to be successful. Only 2 to 3% of people are able to be financially successful by being independent. Whether or not you have a business or you are a solo freelancer, only small percentage of people are able to achieve this. And again, if you want to be one of those people, stick around and watch the other videos. I'll see you soon. All right, welcome back. In this video, I will explain the second guideline to your success, which is focus. And what this essentially means that while you are working hard towards your goal, if you are just running around without any focus, doing 100 different things, you'll never actually master any specific thing and you won't get anywhere. Let me give you an example. If you have a boat and you go to sail into the ocean without any specific goal in mind, you will wander around the world and maybe get lost and never come back. But if you have a specific goal where you want to go, then you know how to aim the sails, which stars to look at for orientation or GPS or whatever, and then go into that direction. So you want to know where to go so you can focus your energy towards that goal. If you think about this in pixel art terms, we have many different topics and themes. You have character design, you have creature design, you have animations, different special effects or creature or character animation, environment animation, you have environment design, etc. So there are many things which you can do to practice. And even then, you have many different styles of pixel art that you can practice. You can combine it with modern techniques. You can maybe develop something on your own. Maybe you're gonna use old techniques or old color palettes like dithering and stuff like that, etc. What I'm saying is that you should be focusing on one topic at a time, which is why I put sections in this course. And basically, you will learn one section, practice it with focus, then move on to the next section, practice, do the challenges, and once you finish them all, then go back again and start doing them all over again. And you will notice that your results for, let's say, simple characters on 32 by 32 pixels, the first time you did them and then repeated this process like 6 months from then, your characters will be a lot different. This also applies for your objects, environments, etc. And you need to be focused in order to achieve something. Let me give you another example in real life. If you have a light, it's basically dispersion. It disperses everything and it lights a room. But if you focus that light into one very small point, you get a laser. And if the light is strong enough, that laser can cut pretty much through anything, simply because it's focused. Just like that, your focus needs to be on the topic which you are learning. Just spending lots of time is not enough. Let's give you an example with small kids. Some people say you need a huge background in art. For example, I personally haven't done art for most of my life. I began only in my adulthood, and I've been able to get financial success. But there are a bunch of people who started working on art when they were small kids. And think about it. They really haven't improved that much from year 5 to year 15 unless they started practicing certain topics like human anatomy, shading, illusions, and stuff like that. And this is the same thing that applies to you. So if you are an adult, within 1 year, if you focus each month on a specific topic in art, you will be able to achieve a lot more than maybe certain kid spend around from year 3 to 15. If he just scramble around, messing around, and basically never got to the next level, which is why the focus is important. Also, don't be discouraged if you are starting out late. You can get to a professional level of art within the span of few years. But again, this is something that is always developing. You will be learning art pretty much your entire life, and you can always improve. But by the industry standards, the standard which is required for you to actually get gigs and start earning money, you can get to that level. I believe in a couple of years you can start earning a lot of money, or at least enough to live off of it. All right, so the focus again, extremely important. Do one thing at a time and then repeat them. Don't get stuck on one thing like all the time. If you just do one thing, it's not really gonna help. Let me give you let me put this into perspective of that wizard in a tower. So you are this wizard in a tower and you need to get to level 50, to the floor 50. You are not gonna get there if you don't finish each and every floor up until then. So you need to focus on floor 1 before you can go to floor 2. Then you focus on floor 2, then on floor 3, etc. You focus on each and every floor specifically. And again, on those floors, you have different fields and different rooms on which you are going to focus before moving on to the next one, right? And then in time, if you decide to repeat the game or the process where you go all over again, you will know a lot better those floors and you will be able to finish them in different ways, right? All right, so this is it for the focus. I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. So this is the third guideline for you how to be successful, and it's basically defeating your fears or overcoming your fears. The main thing in your life which blocks you from getting the things you want is fear. It can be fear of rejection. So if you want to talk to someone, it can be like a romantic love or not. Basically, fear of rejection, you're done for it. Fear of existence, basically fear for your own life and stuff like that, which blocks you in risking certain things. It's again something that you want to get rid of. In a business sense, let me give you an example. In a business, you will be taking a lot of risks. And if you are not brave, if you are blocked by fear, you will never take that step forward and risk something to gain something more. Sometimes you will lose, sometimes you will win. It's completely normal. But if you get blocked by fear so much, you will always be in your comfort zone and you will never go outside and you will never achieve something else. Because let's say you are earning $10 per hour. If that's okay with you, fine. But if you want to achieve something else and you don't know what, well, you need to start trying out new things. How to build from 10 to 20, from 20 to 50, etc. Right? So you need to be trying out new things, and most people are afraid of it. So I just want you, again, just relax, have fun, and most of the fears should be gone. But if you are too relaxed, you might get back into a comfort zone, which is where the focus helps. So the focus is something that is helping you to always get out of the comfort zone. Now let's apply this to, let's say, pixel art. You want to make sure that for your clients, you are able to create entire game. Characters, creatures, animations, special effects, environments, backgrounds, etc. Everything. You need to know everything. If you're lacking in one field a lot more than you have others, so let's say you're a master at animation and character design, but you are really awful at environment design and composition. What will this mean? Well, once the final game is finished, the player will play the game and they will notice, wow, the character is awesome, the animations are nice and fluid, but the backgrounds, the environment is just lacking. It's not on the same level. And this at the end will result in bad game design, in not cohesive environment, and it will kind of break the game, the immersion of the game. So you want to make sure that you have all of the fields covered. And why I'm talking about this as an artist is because if you stick to one field, you'll never learn the others. Again, this is something for the focus, but essentially all of the artists have certain field they love more than the others. So certain artists love drawing environments, but they don't like characters. Certain people like drawing characters, but they don't like doing the animation for those characters, right? And this is where the problems come up. You need to know all of the fields, and you always need to go outside your comfort zone in order to learn new things. Let's say about that wizard in a huge tower with a bunch of different floors. If you are a visitor on, let's say, floor 10, and you want to get to floor 11. Once you beat the floor 10, you can either stay on that floor and keep repeating the same thing all over again until you pretty much get no experience from those monsters anymore. But eventually you will have to step up and go into level 11 to face new challenges, new enemies, new bosses, etc. Same thing applies to life. In order to get to higher goals, you will be facing a lot more challenges, and some of them are going to be a lot harder than the others, and you need to be brave for that. So don't be afraid, just go and try. You have pretty much nothing to lose, but you have a lot to gain. Now if you already have a job, like a day job, 8 to like 9 to 5 p.m. or whatever, then you want to make sure you don't make unnecessary risks. So if you don't have a audience, if you don't have regular clients in pixel art, then it's probably a bad idea for you to quit your job if you don't have savings and start earning. Make the transition slowly. I'm saying be brave, but please don't be stupid, all right? Think about your decisions before you act. All right, this is it for this section, for this video basically. So you want to overcome your fears, locate what are your fears, what are you afraid of, and then go and overcome them simply by using focus and relaxed approach. All right, I will see you in the next video where I will cover the last guideline, which is the feedback. I'll see you soon. Welcome back. So this is the last guideline that I want to cover, which is basically feedback from other people. Very soon I will cover where you can get feedbacks from other people for pixel art, but essentially this is closely related to the previous guideline, overcoming your fears. And this one is again closely connected, but when you think about it, once you do certain art, and let's say you're that wizard in a tower and you simply cannot beat the boss, and you don't know what you are doing wrong, then you might go and ask other players, how did you beat the boss? What can I improve? What can I change in my approach? And then once you get that feedback, you will be able to defeat the boss. And in art, this is extremely important, because once you are doing your piece, we can get the tunnel vision and we can only see few things at a time. You want to be asking the other people for feedbacks and constructive criticism, because you want to know how you can improve your art, and you can only see things from one perspective. So when you ask people for feedback, you are basically getting a bunch of different perspectives and how they see your art and what could be improved, which is a good thing. All right, so I want to make sure that you don't feel let's say afraid, because when you make art, you've put your creative energy in it and you feel connected to your art personally, right? And once someone says something is wrong with your art, you can feel hurt. This is the main issue people have. Don't feel hurt, because number one, they are not attacking you personally. They are just commenting on your image, right? Your image isn't you. You might feel connected to your image because you've made it, but again, be open to suggestions, because this will enable you to learn a lot faster than anyone else who doesn't ask for feedbacks, because there are always industry professionals out there that like to comment and stuff and like to help other people out. Okay, so ask for feedback and don't be afraid of constructive criticism. Now, if you are noticing that someone is simply bashing your art, like saying, oh, this is crap and whatever, you can just ignore those. I'm talking about constructive criticism, so ignore like simple bashes. But if someone says, all right, the composition is bad, the color balance is off, the color harmony is completely off, certain things are, the anatomy of this human is wrong, the perspective is distorted, etc. Take those things into consideration and see what you can do to improve. So constructive criticism is always something that you should be looking for. All right, this is it for this video. In the next one, I'll finally go and start explaining where you can actually find people who will give you feedback and constructive criticism. Welcome back. So in this video I will explain to you what are the best websites from my experience to get exposure and feedback. So before I dive into the main ones, I just want to cover ArtStation. Now if you haven't heard about it, it's okay, but if you're an artist, you really should have heard about it. And it's essentially the industry standard for game artists all over the world. So when certain clients asks you for portfolio, you want to make sure you have portfolio available on ArtStation. Most of the things here happen in 2D illustrations, digital of course, and 3D. There's very little pixel art in comparison to other art. So I want you to be very well aware of that. But even though it is like that, you want to make sure you have your portfolio up here. Now, you can see plenty of different artists because also you can get inspiration from them. So you can put up your art here and then you can ask for constructive feedback and criticism, though I want to mention don't hope for it too much on ArtStation, honestly, but I will soon give you other options where people are actually a lot more active when it comes to pixel art. But again, I repeat, ArtStation is really important because one day if you decide to move from pixel art to 2D art to maybe concept art or 3D art modeling, you want to make sure you already have your profile here and maybe even some following. All right, so let's go to other sites. Number one is Pixel Joint. Now this is a really popular website. I would say the main one when it comes to pixel art because you have all sorts of different challenges here that you can do to practice your pixel art. You can get like different I believe achievements. You can get points when people like give you likes, etc. And you can also find jobs here on Pixel Joint, which I'll show in the future videos. But essentially here, if you ask for feedback and constructive criticism, people might give it to you. All right, so let's go to the next one, which is Reddit. And here you have a subreddit called Pixel Art. I highly recommend that you join it if you haven't already and share your art. If you tag your art with CC, so not OC but rather CC, meaning like constructive criticism or comment and criticize, people will usually comment it and see what you can come up with. So for example, you can see OC, which means original creation, and CC, where they ask. So you can already see they are requesting critique. So people usually comment in those cases. All right, and again, like I said already, it's really important to get feedback and constructive criticism, so ask other people in the field what can be improved. Great. And the last one is Pixel Dailies. Now this one is more for your exposure. So if you decide to build community, you want to make sure that you do things on Twitter and post pretty much daily. Pixel Dailies is a channel, or rather Twitter account, where they post each and every day a different topic, and then you that topic in pixel art. Then you post it, tag it with Pixel Dailies and whatever is the challenge, and you might get retweets, maybe some following, etc. But it's also a very good way to get some constructive criticism if you ask for it, and maybe someday like even get some clients out of it. I personally haven't gotten clients by doing simply Pixel Dailies challenges, so I won't recommend it for that specific cause. But if you are building an audience, this is really awesome site for exporters. So ArtStation, Pixel Joint, Reddit, Pixel Art, and Twitter Daily, basically Twitter, are awesome ways to get some exposure and some sites to get really nice constructive criticism and feedback. Alright, this is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. So in this video I will explain to you how to make a portfolio in pixel art, or rather what should be in your portfolio and what shouldn't be. So I created an ArtStation profile, a new one specifically for this course. So let's go to my profile, and you can see pixel art portfolio here. Once you enter it, you can see different images. Now each and every image on ArtStation, basically you have the option to add some text to it, and I highly recommend you to put those notes and explain why did you do that specific thing. So in this case, you can see high resolution sword made in tutorial for my students in Pixel Master course. This tells other people that, okay, I'm capable of replicating this sword, I know how to make it, and I also have certain students in pixel art course, meaning I communicate to other people and I love to teach. All right, so moving on to the next one, you can see that I have made a certain name for this background, and again credited the game for which I have made it for. Right now it's Chronicles of Denzar. Before it was fantasy RPG, like 15-year-old game right now or something like that. In any case, you can see that I have high resolution here on ArtStation because the minimal size I believe right now is 400 pixels of width and height. So I created something bigger and then put here in the corner an original resolution. So you can go ahead and see what I'm talking about, and you always want to be able to put your main things and the best art that you consider to be in your portfolio. So only do the best things, and look what will happen very soon. I have a bunch of different characters, so I have shown I know how to create environments, including like the glow effects. So with, even though this is very minimal because I really wanted it like that, I know how to make it. And then I know how to create characters because I made a bunch of different character designs here, which you can check out. And then suddenly from those high resolution stuff, we get to like very simplified things. Again, I did this animation, I did all of this was a client work, so I have credited whatever was needed. Even here, you can see on one of the backgrounds below, I believe, it was made during live stream here, like so, like these sewers. I made this during live stream on YouTube, Twitch, but for a client because I had their permission. If you have the NDA, you won't be able to do that. But nonetheless, if you jump from high resolution to something low resolution like this, this is something that you should want to avoid, okay? Because low resolution like this, even though it has been made how the client wanted it, it really has no place here. Why? Well, because if you are able to create high resolution images, it's a given that you really know how to make low resolution images as well. So you want to avoid that. The only difference, or rather the only time that you should actually be putting something like this in your portfolio is if the client or the company you are applying to has a style for their games in low resolution. You want to make sure that you put in your portfolio their style of art, basically. So you find their images online, you play their games a little bit, then you find the sprites, and then you put those sprites in whatever tool you're using and make your own designs based upon their own designs. So basically you want to take their art and transform it into something else, so they know you know how to make and replicate their art, and you have some creative vision behind it as well. Plus you're also interested in their game because you certainly played it. Well, I hope you did. In any case, all right, so then you can, again, if you have something made for a private project, you can just put it for a private project if you want. If not, you can just leave it out. But in any case, you want to make sure that your portfolio has everything. So this portfolio right here is, again, I wanted to make a bad example so you know what not to make. So if I go back a little bit, you can see that I put this certain animation for a character, but I haven't put it here in a portfolio, which I should have. All right, so you want to have everything in your portfolio. You want to have certain environments, the best one you can make. You want to have some objects, you want to have some characters, and you want to have some animations, but like the good ones, right? These are the things that are required. The things that I would also say, if you can create an animated GIF, which you probably should be able to do by exporting it, put it into your portfolio. If you want to, if you love creating RPG, make sure to include tile sets or tile maps, entire tile sets and tile maps, and maybe even like a certain mock-up for a game, because again, if this is something that if you haven't finished a game already where you can just take screenshot from the game, then create mockups. I did this with in intermediate section with different views, so you can pretty much, you should already have mockups. But essentially, this is something that you should be very well aware of. So there are a few rules, let's repeat all of them. Number one, put only the best work in your portfolio. Second, just ignore the bad stuff. I made thousands of sprites, I put maybe 15 of them here if I count these as one big sprite, but you don't need a lot of things. So you don't need 100 things in your portfolio. Pick a smaller number, maybe up to 20 things maximum. You want to make sure that the client, once he looks at your pixel art, he can see it and be done with it within maybe 1 to 2 minutes, because if they even do it that long, it's a pretty long attention span. All right, so number one, only the best things. Number two, keep it short, don't overdo it. Number three, evade things like that. Number four, be sure to include everything you can. So environments, character design, animations, maybe special effects as well, all of it. You want to show that you know how to make absolutely everything, and then it would be also nice to include few mockups of maybe 1 or 2 mockups of games. If you already have made any entire games, maybe take a screenshot from the game. All right, so those are the main things. And like I said, the extra thing is, if you are applying for a company, make sure you research their style before you apply. Research their style, make some sprites in their style, and then put it into your portfolio to show that you actually care about their game, you care about their project, and you know how to replicate their style. This is really important, because if they have like 100 applicants and you are the maybe 5 of them have done some actual work on their sprites, those 5 get an instant pass to like the next level of choosing who will actually get the work. Okay, so these are the things that you should be putting into your portfolio. So where to actually put it? Well, like I already said, put it on ArtStation. Even though you won't get that much attention on ArtStation from like big companies probably for pixel art, but it's always good thing to have it here. The next place is Pixel Joint. So if you just Google Pixel Joint jobs, first thing you will have here are Pixel Joint forums, job offerings, and portfolios and resumes. If I go here on job offerings, you can see here the sub forum, portfolios, and resumes. Be sure to put it here as well, because once you are available for work, people actually come here and look through the available resumes and maybe contact the pixel art. So if I go over here, you can see he has some nice objects and basically really nice art. But in my opinion, this one is lacking characters and character animation. Okay, so be sure to put all of the things so people know you can actually make everything you need for the game. If, for example, I wanted to hire this artist and he doesn't have like examples of characters in this style, doesn't mean a lot to me, because if he creates everything like the houses, which look really nice here, and he doesn't know how to create characters that will look really good with these color palettes, well, then there's not much use to it, right? If you think from a perspective of the employer, right? Yeah, no characters. But other than that, it's really cool portfolio. Okay, so like I said, ArtStation and Pixel Joint are the main 2 things, because when you apply for jobs, you want to make sure you can just take the link to your portfolio, put it in the email of your client when you apply for the job, and they can just basically click on it, go through it within a minute, and they will know whether or not you fit in or not, well, during other decisions as well. All right, so this is all that should be in portfolio and shouldn't. I will see you in the next video. All right, welcome back. So before I go into explaining how much should you charge for your art and where to find the jobs, I want to make sure I cover absolutely everything I need about paying. So there's something that most of you will have trouble with in the beginning, and that is, should you ask for payments or should you work for free? And essentially, if you want to be a freelancer, the answer should be pretty obvious, and that is no, you should not work for free. Because if you are a freelancer, you get paid for the work you do. However, there are a few instances that I want to mention. If they happen, you can actually work for free, right? Why you shouldn't work for free? Well, a lot of people will tell you that you will get exposure. So getting paid by exposure is a complete nonsense, because when you think about it, the only way to get exposure is, and getting paid in exposure is only if they can guarantee you the exposure, right? So if you know they already made bunch of games, successful games, and you know your game will be successful as well, which you really can't know at all, but if they have like a long history of successful games, then they can ensure that you will get some exposure. But in those situations, those companies that have like a long history of successful games, those companies pay their artists, right? So the only people who want to pay you with exposure are basically people who want to get your art for free, be it from the reason that they don't have the money for it, or that they simply don't value your art as much, because there are plenty of free assets out there, and if they probably don't feel that you should get paid for art, like if they are entitled to whatever reason, you shouldn't be working for free. Again, few moments where you can actually work for free. Number one is, of course, if it's your private project. So if you are working by your own and you don't have any type of financial backing from a publisher or not, then you are, well, basically working for free and hoping to earn money, maybe from ad revenue or from selling your game. Okay. Now, the other thing is, if you are working for free with your friends, so again, your private projects, completely okay. But if you don't have any experience whatsoever and you simply want to work on a project and you have time for it, then you can work for free if the project really interests you. But in that case, I would just highly recommend you to keep those projects small and make sure they get published. So let's say you want to make art for a certain game, and that developer needs an artist, and then you connect and you work. The main issue is, if you don't get your art out, basically get published the game, your art is worth a bit less. And why do I say that? Well, when the clients go and look through your portfolio, you want to be able to say, okay, my art was in this game. You can check out this game and see what is my art. Or you can say, okay, this is something that I've made. Take a look at it. What has a deeper feeling to it, deeper meaning? What has a higher impact? Of course, when you have a published game. Now, whether or not this game is successful when you work for free, it's probably not gonna be, but in any case, it means a lot more to your clients that you know how to make an entire game. Because when you have your game published, they know this guy or this person knows how to make all assets for the game and make it work, make it a cohesive design. And this is a good thing. And if you don't have the published game, even though you may have already made all the assets, you won't get that impact. So you want to make sure that whoever is the person you are working with, you both agree that the project is small and you get it published. You don't want to be spending a year, every month, 100 hours working for free on a project that probably won't earn any money, and then like not getting published at the end. All right, so keep it small. I suggest projects that you can make within 1 month. If the developer is looking for a free pixel artist, this means they are probably committing themselves to a project. And this should mean that they also have built previous games, probably small ones, and now they want to make a step up. So from free assets to actual custom assets, which you can provide. And you want to make sure you are both completely clear that you want to make sure the developer does his job on time and you do your job on time. All right, so keep it small, please do keep it small, because if you don't get published, you just, it's not wasted time, you gain experience, you made some art, but it's not as impactful to other potential clients as a finished game. Let's say after 6 months, if you do like free art for 6 months, if you can do it, if you're like really young, maybe 15, 16 years old, and apart from school you can do stuff like that, after 6 months, if you get published like 6 games, then you can already say in your portfolio, okay, I worked on 6 published games. Or if you don't do that, you can say, well, I worked on a few projects, but none of the games got published or finished. Which is more important, right? I want you to think about this, because in the long run, in order for you to make money, you need finished products. For every game that is finished, there are probably hundreds that weren't finished. So make sure you connect with people who will finish the game. All right, so this is basically it for this video. I will see you in the next one. All right, welcome back. So now that we finally said that you shouldn't really be working for free, I want to make sure that you know how much should you charge. And there are many things to think about before we get into actual clients. So number one, how much money do you actually need to earn? I already said this in the beginning of this section about goals. You need to know what your goals are, and you need to know how much money you want to earn. For example, for a person in the USA, if you want to earn enough money to live comfortably, you need to earn a lot more than people who do that in, let's say, India or maybe some other country that doesn't have a high living standard as USA when it comes to this currency. Okay, after that, let's say you figure out you need $100 per week. Just give an example, of course, don't take it too seriously. Think about this and think about how much should you be earning every single week in a year in order to, be able to live off of it. So certain variables that you also want to take into consideration are your local laws, so taxes, deductions, costs, etc. So maybe if you earn $100 from a certain client, but if out of those $100, let's say they pay you via PayPal, and then PayPal takes its cut, so a certain portion of it. Then when it comes to your bank also takes a certain portion for transaction as a transaction fee, but also as a conversion of the currency, so from USA to, let's say, euros or whatever it is. You will pay for all of those, even though the percentages are rather small, or they can be even big sometimes. You want to take that into consideration. Then there goes taxes, again, other costs, and maybe from those $100 you have earned, you may be left only with 80 or 70. Who knows how high are your taxes, basically. So this is something that you want to take into equation. All right, now once you've taken that and you have, let's say, came up with, okay, I need $150 per week, then you need to think about how much would you actually need to work each and every single week, because you are not going to work every day of the year. Probably you won't be working. You might take a vacation on a week or two. You might get sick. You might get unexpected happenings in your life where you actually simply cannot work. And if that happens, you want to make sure you have enough money in your account so you can support yourself and maybe your family, so you don't get basically on the street. Okay. Apart from that, you also need to take into consideration that you probably won't have clients all the time. So you might get a big job like for 1 month, then you might not get any job for a few weeks or even few months at a time. So you want to make sure that you take that into consideration. So if you are earning, let's say, $150 a week, and this is something that you need to earn every week for the rest of the year, then you know, okay, 150 is not enough because I might take few weeks off, I need to start charging $200. And because I maybe won't be able to work for a few months because who knows when the next client is going to come, then you also need to take that into consideration, and then you know basically what is your goal. So this is how you basically specify how much you should be earning per week. And let's say you came up with a number where you should be getting $300 a week for some reason. Then you know, okay, $300 per week if I work, let's say 30 hours, not full time like 40 hours, but if you work like 30 hours, that means your charge should be like $10 per hour. And then you know what is your sustainable rate, okay? And then you just keep building upon that. And this is, again, this is just the first step, which is figuring out how much you should be earning in order for you to be a full-time freelancer. So again, this might not be $300 a week for you. This might be $1,000 per week. This might be $2,000 per week. Who knows where you live and what are your living standards? But again, you should figure out this by yourself. I cannot simply give you advice that applies to all of you because you guys are all over the world in this course, and I simply cannot give you legal advice on that part. So I highly recommend you that you research this topic on yourself. What are the taxes? What are the rules? And then how much money you should be earning. All right, so let's go into the client work and see how things actually work in real life. I will go to Pixel Joint, and I believe I already opened up here Pixel Joint, portfolios, resumes. Let's go back to job offerings, and here you can see people actually you can just go over here and show topics, let's say in the last month or so, and see who is actually paying and who is actually not paying for a job, because you won't be able to charge always as much as you want, because at least not in the beginning. Later on you will be able to, but in the beginning not really, because when you have no clients at all and you just want to get a few bucks here and there, you can go here and let's say this person is, yeah, he's asking to add facial features like eyes, noses, and hair. He's paying $5 per hairstyle and $2 for like maybe eyes, nose, etc. And the person below, which is a bit higher in rank, says, well, anyone should get paid at least $20 for the whole thing, which is, I believe, twice as much than, or maybe even more than this person is offering. And he basically responds, don't like the price, don't apply. This is a bit harsh, but it's true. If you don't like it, you just don't apply for it. If you don't have the time for it, or you don't like how much he's paying, don't apply. But what I should be saying, when people offer low prices like this, there's usually no space for negotiation. Like, to be honest, from my experience, you might get like maybe $1 or $2 extra, but don't expect it, honestly, because he's trying to save a lot of money and he will always try to get as lower rates as possible. Okay, but if this were a more serious project or bigger project with bigger budget, then you can negotiate price. So if he were saying, let's say he was offering $30 per hairstyle and let's say $10 per extra accessory, then you could maybe ask for 10% extra up and down, for negotiation. But again, I will talk about types of clients later on, but for now let's talk about rates. So the first thing is figure out how much you need to earn to be full-time freelance, and you want to slowly build towards that. If you can jump straight into it, great. That's actually really good for you, but it usually doesn't happen. So I want to make sure that I give you a step-by-step building blocks towards it. Like I said, you don't want to work for free, but if you can actually get any sort of a paying job, this is good, because this will give you what you essentially need, and that is experience with clients and how projects work, how deadlines work, etc. Even though you might earn only like maybe $100 from this person, maybe even less, it's okay. You earned something. And depending on how fast you can work, it can be even faster. Let's say 5 hairstyles with eyes and whatnot. Maybe let's say on this person, if you make a simple hairstyle, eyes, nose, stuff like that, you might be earning already $5 to $10 per hour, depending on how fast you work. If it's a simple style, which I really think it's not, because there's a lot of details on these models, but essentially I think you can get a pretty decent rate for a beginner, like $5 to $10 per hour probably. All right, so let's go and take a look at another one. Let's go with this one. And you can see here, I'd be looking for rates per piece. And basically, you will often find that people don't actually include what is the price. And they only say it once you apply. And if they like your art, they start negotiating. And this is a good thing, because one, less people will apply, probably, but the most important thing is there is space for negotiation. Let me give you an example. Z Grim V, he didn't post what is the price, and if someone, let's say 5 people contacted him, and he really likes your art the most, like levels above anyone else, and he has the budget to pay. Let's say other people are asking $5 per hour on average, and you're asking $10 per hour. He might be just ready to pay for it simply because your level of quality is levels and levels beyond other people. And this is something really good, because whenever there is negotiation, there is space for you to earn a little bit extra money. All right. So how much should you be charging in the beginning? Well, most of the times people will be giving you rates for finished product. As I've shown you right here, for a finished hairstyle, $5, etc. So how do you figure out an hourly rate? Well, hourly rate is important because, again, this is something that you need to calculate, and it's really tangible when it comes to creating art and when it comes to surviving, basically, for your financial life. But when you think about how will you get to that portion, is basically you take an image. Let's say this person is asking for a hairstyle. You go and do the hairstyle and see how long did it take you to make it. If it took you 1 hour to make a hairstyle for which you are getting $5 before taxes and everything else, this means you are earning $5 per hour, again, before taxes. But if you have made this hairstyle in 15 minutes, suddenly, because you got paid $5 for it, you actually earned $20 per hour. That was your actual rate, even though at the end you will earn only $5. But you want to make sure you calculate how much you would earn per hour, and then try to actually get paid enough so you actually get those hourly rates up. Okay, so now that we have that covered, you cannot really expect from clients, if he's, like I already said, if he's asking for $5 and you try to ask for $50, probably not gonna happen. So keep that in mind. And you simply, for all hourly rates, the developers have lots of different tools where they will go to the PC, they will click a button that will then start recording their screen and their time for coding. And once they finish the coding, they stop the timer, everything shuts down, and they can just send the bill to the client. So, okay, I did the coding for 3 hours, pay me those 3 hours. In art, it doesn't work like that. People will give you money for finished products. So once you finish the image, once you finish the sprite, you get paid. Of course, I will talk about different ways of payments in next videos, but for now, this should be it. All right, so how much should you be charging? Well, if you are a total beginner, try to get a rate of at least $5 per hour. So anywhere between $5 and $10 per hour. This is what I consider beginner level, right? So basically from $1 per hour to $10 per hour. This is like an entry level position, so to speak. And this is the bare minimum you want to be earning. I'd say again $5 to $10. Then once you have like few finished products, or if you were good at negotiation and even from the very first client you already got a higher paying job, then from $10 per hour to $30 per hour, you are an advanced user, or rather an advanced artist, and you already have some connections with higher paying clients. Again, I'll talk about those in just a few videos. And then from $30 per hour all the way up, however high you can get, I consider that to be a mastery. So basically I got to $50 per hour and even a bit higher with dark freelancing, though I wouldn't suggest doing that ever again, and it really doesn't happen. I'll get into those again later on, but you can expect to earn about $50 per hour. But again, please don't expect this to be like you won't be able to make millions from Pixlr by doing client work. It just doesn't happen, because your clients are usually small studios or even solo developers that are looking for sprites and images for their games, and in most cases they are like low paying clients. So again, up to $10 per hour. Mid ones pay up to $30 per hour, and the really serious clients pay up to a $50 an hour. Again, if you manage to get even higher rate, that's excellent. I think $50 an hour is really great, and if you manage to get there, you can live a really comfortable life, probably no matter almost no matter where you are, right? Okay, so this is it about how much should you be charging. So number one, calculate how much you need, how much money you actually need to survive or even live the lifestyle you actually want to live. Then from that, start figuring out how much actually working hours you will have in your working month, because again, sometimes you might not get a gig for weeks at a time or even months. Keep that in mind. And then once you calculate that, then you need to start working your ass off. You need to actually start working with clients and start earning money, negotiate prices when you can to get a bit higher rate. This is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. In this video, I will explain to you how different payment methods work when it comes to contracts. So we essentially have three different things. First one is upfront payment. Second one is upon completion, and the third one is in increments. So the first one is, well, upfront payment, meaning let's say your project is worth $1,000. This means that you will get paid in full, so all $1,000 you get, and once you get that money, you do the work, you finish everything up, and you deliver it to the client. The main problem with this is that clients usually don't like this, simply because there are a lot of scam people out there, and let's say they would pay a person $1,000 and then that person would never contact them again, and they just lost a significant portion of their budget, or maybe it's a small significant, or maybe it's all the budget, doesn't matter. The point is they get scammed, and this is why they usually don't like this type of deal. And they will never do it with the persons who are, let's say, first time contracted work, right? So this is something that could, however, happen if this is a repeated client and they know they can trust you. Then there is a chance that you can actually get paid upfront in full. However, this also works on the opposite side of the spectrum, meaning you get paid upon completion. So only once you deliver the final works, you can get paid. Now, the same rule applies. You should only do this with trusted, repeated clients, never with the first time clients, never. Simply because just the same as there are scam artists out there, there are also scam developers, meaning they would contact you, you would do the artwork, and they promise you payment and they never do pay you. And sometimes it can go as far as actually stealing your art, publishing it in your game, and never credit you. And not only that, they credit themselves, and then you can get in all sorts of legal complications. And this is why we as an artists or freelancers don't like this. And the best way is, basically the best way to do is to find a compromise which is in the middle. So let's say this project of $1,000, you would get paid half upfront and half upon completion, but before delivery of the final product. What does this mean? Well, you would get $500 before you begin. Then that would be some sort of insurance from you, for you, that your client is serious. And once you do the artwork, you always communicate with your client, which I'll explain later on. But essentially, once you finish the work, if this is like a first-time client, don't give them a completed PNG, completed spreadsheets and everything, because you risk them never paying you the other half. You still have the first half, which is good, but you should in these cases put like watermarks over your images if they are interested in animations. Well, in that case you can put watermark all over the animated GIFs or GIFs if they wish to see how the animation looks. For the other images you can just simply put again watermark. Now this is quite useful because this way you protect yourself, but at the same time they really cannot test that that sprite in the game. But it's also important, again, if this is a repeated client, then you can completely have an open communication, and if you trust them they will pay the later half, then you can simply give them finished product in total and then you get paid, right? But if it's, like I said, first time client, deliver them the final product with watermarks, and only once they pay you the second half, only then you will deliver them nice, clean PNG files with spreadsheets, GIFs, and whatever you have actually made a deal about. Okay. Now, this doesn't have to happen half upfront, half upon completion, because if it's a smaller project, let's say 1 month, you can get half upfront, half upon completion. But if this is a longer project, let's say it lasts for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year or longer, then you want to make sure you get paid in increments. And this basically means that instead half, basically, you would choose certain amount of increments for each time period. So if, for example, your project is 5 months, this means that you could ask for each and every month for a payment in a total of 20%. So each month you get paid 1/5 of the total amount you should get paid, right? Really nice. And again, this is the best thing to do because not only you have sort of a steady source of income, you also know that the developer is, or your client is basically really serious about it. And this is something that will happen with larger projects and like higher paying clients. So you definitely want to be protected in that sense. All right, so those are the ways you can actually get paid. Again, please do keep in mind to count on how much you are going to pay for taxes and other costs. So you should always calculate that in. All right, this is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. So in this video, I will explain to you what are the things that you should be looking out for when it comes to contracts. Now, there are, of course, many things that you should be looking out for, but there are a few main things that you definitely want to be in the contract. But before I get into those, I just want to say that most of the time for low-paying clients, you won't actually have a written contract. So if you find like projects that are worth less than $100, it's probably high chance none of you will actually get a contract or something like that. But again, if it's something that you value, you should always have a contract on hand. Again, because the laws are different all over the place. In different countries, I cannot really give you a legal advice on how it should be constructed when it comes to legal terminology, but I can definitely tell you what should be in the contract, and let's go into those. So number one is the deadlines. You want to make sure you have a very specific deadline for both of you. Basically for you, which is the deadline when you should have your assets delivered, the deadline for your client by when he or she should actually pay for your work. All right, so you need to have the deadlines for the product, or basically for your development phase, and then you should have also a specific deadline for payments. So let me give you an example. Let's say the project is $500. You want to specify that, by the 1st of, let's say, December, everything should be finished, and then you have 15 days, let's say, a period where you can do revisions, but those are only after the client actually pays you. Now you can do all sorts of things. He can actually pay you after you do the revisions, but you want to make sure there is a period by which he should pay. So if you need to deliver final products by the 1st of December, you want to say, okay, once the final product is delivered, within the 15 days, you want to get full or the rest of the payment. Okay, now this can be 7 days, this can be 5 days, 3 days, whatever you actually made a deal, but I'd recommend not going over 15 days, because then it gets it can get a bit complicated. But again, if this is a big client, big company, then it's completely normal even to have up to 30 days. Also, what you should have, the second thing you should have in the contract is what I've previously just mentioned, and that is revisions. You want to make sure that you have a deadline for revisions as well, because once you finish whatever the sprites and whatnot you have actually made, yes, during that process you will always get feedback from your client and send him and keep him in the loop. So you will always communicate, but you never know. Once you give them the final product and once they test it in a game, and let's say someone on their team decides to change something, and then you need to actually do that work. And if you haven't specified this in the contract, then you are not obligated to do revisions. But if you don't do the revisions, they might not pay you, right? So you can see where the issue is coming from. You want to make sure that in the contract, you have specified the time amount for which they are allowed to have revisions. So if you have given them like 7 days, 15 days period where they can ask for revisions, and it would also be good that within that time period they should also make the final payment, so everything is nice and finished at pretty much the same time. And I can tell you that most of the time, like, people ask for revisions because only once they test it like more deeply in a game, they will find things they want to add or remove or adjust. So please do keep that in mind. All right, that's number 2. So let's go to number 3. Payments. Now I have talked about this in the previous videos. Please specify the amount you should get paid and when you should get paid. All right, so you want to be very specific and very clear about it. So if there are delayed payments and stuff like that, then you should have some sort of an interest rate. So let's say people they are late for 10 days. Then you want interest rate for each and every one of those 10 days. Again, what is the percentage? Should you get it or not? Again, that's up to you. But interest rates are optional, but you should definitely have, again, deadline for payments. This is again something in the first thing, but also the way of payment. So if your deal is 50-50, 50% upfront, 50% upon completion, then that should be in the contract. If you have 10 increments, so every month you get paid 10% and the project is 10 months long, again, be sure to specify that in the contract. Okay, so apart from that, there is another main very important thing, and that is the who has what rights to the IP, or rather your creations or your intellectual property. So essentially whatever you created, that basically belongs to you, and you are selling the commercial rights to that images, sprites, basically to that product. So when your client is actually buying your work, they implement that work in their game and they sell the game and they earn money from it. However, you want to make sure you keep the rights, like the basic rights to your intellectual property, because that way you are credited for that art. That means that once they publish the game, in the credits, it should be your name for the pixel art. Okay, so really important, because if you lose those rights, that can be really problematic for you, because then you really are not allowed to put that in your portfolio publicly, especially if you have signed an NDA, so non-disclosure agreement, which can be a part of the contract, where you basically are not allowed to talk or share any information about your art in the game. Okay, and this is a major way for you to get hurt, Now, usually people aren't doing that, but you should be very, very well aware of that if someone tries to cross over you. Also, I want to add something to the IP. So let's say this is a game which is probably going to have sequels. So sequel like 2 or 3 sequels, maybe, who knows, even more. If the IP of like the IP of the game itself, of course, belongs to the client, the publisher, the developer, whoever it is. But if you can get into contract that you should have like the first person to be offered a job for that character, if you design the character and everything, then you can actually get rights that you should have the job offered for the sequels. Meaning they published the first game, it was successful. When it's time to make a sequel, they should contact you first for the art before they contact anyone else. Now again, this is something that happens very rarely, but if you manage to do it, great. If not, I mean, you haven't really lost anything, but I just want to point out. All right, so those are the things that you should be looking out for in the contracts. This is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. So I just want to quickly cover what is dark freelancing, as I have mentioned that stuff before. So dark freelancing is essentially doing the client work as usual, but you give up any and all rights to your images, and also you sign an NDA, so non-disclosure agreement, that you will never mention that you have actually made that art and that the credit belongs to someone else. Right now, you would ask yourself, well, who would want stuff like that? And I'll answer that in just a second. But essentially, dark freelancing happened to me a few times, and I have been able to charge really high rates, especially because the type of people who looked for that type of deal. Now, what is it? Well, I have been able to charge up to $150 US dollars per hour on average, and those were short jobs, so usually like it took me 2 to 3 days to finish, but again, that's quite a good amount of money in such a short amount of time. But why would anyone want it? Well, those were, in my case, usually students or college kids, so college students who had deep pockets but wanted to take all the credit. All right, so they had the money and they wanted like that sort of a little fame, so to speak. So they, well, actually they found me and we talked a little bit about it, and I'd say, okay, sure, fine, let's do it. And I was never able to use those assets in my portfolio simply because that is what the contract said. Now, I have mentioned in the previous video that one of the things that you should be looking out for in the contract is the IP. So you want to make sure it is specified that it still belongs to you and you can use it in your portfolio. But when it comes to dark freelancing, you give up on that. And because you give up those rights and you essentially give some little fame to that person, you get paid quite a lot more. Now again, this doesn't happen anymore, and those same people would now go to Fiverr and just get their stuff done by $5 from people in countries where $5 feels like $150 in the USA. So you essentially won't be able to find those type of people, but if it does happen to you, I just want to say, avoid it. You want to keep all of your work in your portfolios, because in the long run, this is what really matters. Alright, this is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. So in this video, I want to talk about how to talk with your clients. Now, obviously, this is a really important topic, though I can really make few courses just on this topic alone. So trying to put everything in one video is really hard, but I'll try to be as short as possible and straight to the point, and something that can be generally used in your business if you decide to switch from pixel art to something else. Okay, so let's go into this. Number one, you want to be respectful. Now, again, you don't have to be like defensive or passive, just be respectful. Don't be like an angry asshole, basically, right? So, and I do apologize for like my a bit harsher language here, because I do want to I want you to get the feeling how does it actually look like in the real world. So if you are respectful to your clients, you should also be respected back, because once you give the respect, or rather you show respect to others, then you can actually start seeing that from other people to you as well. Because if you're not respectful, if you are an asshole, trust me, you will never work with them again. If during negotiations you are an asshole, you will never land a job. And why am I saying this? Well, you can never be good enough to be an asshole towards other people. Never. Trust me. Especially in the game dev community where people work for passion. We all like games. We like working with people who are kind and who are professional at the same time. We don't like working with people who come and complain and just want to be angry and shout and be disrespectful. Nobody likes that. And if you start behaving like that during the project development phase, there is a chance you will lose you will basically lose that client for future projects, but you might also get fired, so to speak, from that paying job. You can get your contract cancelled. You can basically ruin your reputation by being disrespectful. So again, be respectful to others. Now, I do want to point out that even though you want to be respectful, you do not want to be afraid. So let me give an example. Your client is asking for, let's say, $10 per hour, who knows, but you are asking for $20, right? Now, if you want to be respectful about it, let me show you an example, like on Pixel Joint. I believe I've seen it somewhere. Let's see. All right, here it is. So I believe I showed this previously. Now, if you see, he's looking for $5 per hairstyle and $2 per extra accessory or facial features. Now, this person answered that $5/$2 for that kind of stuff is rather low price, unless you mean 2 per face feature, and even then it's $5 to $10 for the whole thing, and that is rather less than anyone should get paid for. So by this person's standards, he is telling to this person, dude, you're just not paying enough. And this person isn't aware that for some people, like I said, in certain countries where $5 to $10, $15 can be quite a lot. He basically just attacked this person, again, in a nice way. He wasn't especially disrespectful, but I'll show you a better way how to communicate that. Now, and then he said, least anyone should get paid for the whole thing is $20, especially if you're going to require a particular art direction in those, since anyone doing this will have to get it right and you're bound to evaluate them. Now, he didn't say anything wrong with this with this last part, right? But how much should someone get paid for is really subjective. And this person is evaluating things on his own terms, right? And you should always be aware that there is always perspective of someone else. And you and your clients should always try to find the same page. Your perspectives, or so to speak, your mental realities should match. You should be very, very clear what you are expecting. Okay, now this person's response really isn't like the best in my opinion either. It's like, don't like the prices, don't apply it. It's really sort of aggressive. There is something called soft skills in communication, where you essentially try to say the same thing but in a nicer manner. Though again, it depends on the situation. Sometimes you have to be a bit harsh in order to get your message across, but in most cases you want to be like really respectful. But for the communication, in order to be like really fluid, you want to have like positive connotations in it. So let me give an example how this could be done differently. So the Metar, or whoever he is, now instead of saying, oh, $5 to $2 is too little, okay, even $5 to $10 is a bit too little, and the minimum should someone get paid for is $20. So, right, he basically said to the person, you're not paying enough money, how dare you, right, in a certain manner. So this person felt a bit attacked, and this is why he responded a bit harshly as well. So whatever input you give towards the person, pretty much you can expect the same input because it will be in their subconscious. So what he could have done here instead would be, all right, so I see your budget is $5 for hairstyle, $2 for accessory. And in all honesty, even though I'm interested in the job, if he is actually interested, this really isn't within my like hourly rate. So if you were ready to make a compromise, or if you have an extra budget, then if you are ready to pay up to $20 per hour, I would be very happy to apply to. See what I did here? So basically, you said, okay, this is your budget. This is what you're ready to pay for. Unfortunately, I don't belong here, but I am interested in your project. So you can see that here I basically respected the ideas, the creative ideas this person has. So I agree with what they are trying to create, which is always a nice thing. It's a positive feeling. We give the positive feeling to the person. But unfortunately, this is a little unfortunately, this is not something that I can accept for that amount of money. So if you were ready to increase the budget a little bit, I would be very happy to apply for this. So let me know like if you are interested in it. And here you try to say what is your price and how much you think you should get paid for, but again, in a nicer way. So be respectful. You don't have to be really aggressive towards it, because let's say this person decided to pay $20 per thing. Do you think that the Roderick will hire Metaru for that? Probably not, right? Because he felt attacked by him, which you can obviously see here in the response. Now, you should always think about these types of things when you are trying to talk with other people, not only via like here on forum, or via email as well, via phone, via Skype call, or in person. Never attack other people for whatever reason. Try thinking about how they feel. So, and then if you want to work with them for your hourly rate and you want to get paid that amount of money, find a way in your words where you will say that you respect their idea and that you like their idea, and then try to, if you actually like the idea, of course, and then try to find a way to actually say that, yeah, I'm interested, but you know, if the budget doesn't actually support me, unfortunately we won't be able to work. Or, and then this is basically how most of the negotiations actually start. So you say, oh, if you could actually get $20 for the whole thing, great. Then this person, the Roderick, might say, well, unfortunately I can't really get 20, but I might be able to pay 15. Who knows, right? And this is how things start. Again, in this specific case, I wouldn't expect like getting like twice as much money than usual, but you never know, right? Not unless you try. Okay, so this is the first thing, be respectful. The second thing, which is really important, is be transparent. So be open. So once you land a job, a gig, and even before that, you want to be really open and honest with your client. So if you tell to your client, okay, I can do this in 1 month, then you better do it. And if you are not able to do it within 1 month, as you have said, then you want to make sure that you tell that to your client on time. Let's say after 3 weeks, you realize that you won't be able to finish this by the end of the month. Then you tell that to the client immediately. You don't wait for the last day, because they also have their deadlines and their project. So if you are going to be late with your pixel art, you want to make sure you basically say that to your client so they can take that into consideration and further planning. So if they know, okay, you're going to be late 10 days, then they know, okay, fine, then I'll give to my developers extra features to implement before we get to like those, or bug fixes or whatever it is, before we get to implementing your assets, right? But if they finally finish everything they need to, and then suddenly you are late and you don't have the assets ready, and they were expecting to move on to the next phase of implementing those graphics, then that's a bad thing, you know. then you basically hurt the client, both financially but also their feelings, because you might not think that the feelings are important in the business. This is the most important thing, because we as human beings like to communicate. We communicate via internet, via mail, in person, etc. And especially in business, and especially high paying business, we do things by feelings and emotions. So again, if someone is disrespectful, we won't work with them. If we give you trust, and if the client trusts you, and then you basically aren't respectful and you let them down by not telling them that you are going to be late, or whatever it is, whatever the issue might be during the process of development or drawing, they gave you trust, you let them down, they feel hurt, they might not take you again. So be sure to tell them. So if you know you're going to be late, as soon as you know that, tell them, I have these issues that came up, I didn't expect them, it's going to take a bit longer, can we move the deadline please by XY amount, and then work on this together. Because you need to think about this. Game developers, game designers, project managers, artists, we are all problem solvers, right? So if you are a coder, you always try to solve the problem, be it algorithm or whatever it is with the objects or certain game features, you are a problem solver. Same goes for game designers. How can I achieve certain things? These are all issues and problems, so to speak, things that we can learn upon and then we can build upon. Same applies to artists. We are basically solving problems, so to speak, but visually. We present visual solutions. Coders present like algorithm solutions or whatever it is. Okay? And this means that once you tell that to your client that you are late, together then you can work on the issue, whatever it is, and then on the solution. You can work on the solution together, and clients love that, because that way you are completely open with them and they are completely open and transparent with you. And communication in business is extremely important in order for you to get everything done on time. So if everything goes smoothly, great. You make sure to tell your client, hey man, everything is going completely fine. There are no hiccups, no issues. Everything is going by the plan. Here is the progress. You want to make sure to keep them in the loop. Of course, if it's like a repeated client, you might go and, hey man, but if not, you can say like, hello or regards or whatever it is. I'm not going to go into like how to write an email, but essentially, this is something that you want to be. So be respectful and be very transparent about it. All right, so here are 2 extra things that you should do when it comes to clients. Number 1 is be professional. So this is like a first extra tip. And what do I mean by that? Well, if they hire you, especially if they're like smaller in the studio, you want to make sure you give them input for game design. I was talking about a lot of game design in this course, and I always talk about it a little bit so you understand the decisions behind my visual solutions. And this is the same thing you should be doing to your clients. So if you tell them, I did this type of animation because I think it will suit very nicely. So for your fast top-down shooter, I did this animation very simplified, because if I did it more complicated, it would take away from the eyes of the player and they would focus on your character instead on the enemies that are surrounding the character, for example, right? Or you did the background in the blue color so it can complement the foreground, which is like in orange, in the orange hue. You want to make sure that you explain to your client your decisions, because that way they know that you know your profession, which is pixel art. Okay, so communicate. Don't just deliver your thing and be done with it. It's okay, I mean, but if you want to be rememberable, you want to make sure that you give the impression, and not only give the impression, but actually do and bring value to your client, not only by creating the assets, but rather explaining the game design theory behind it, behind your visual solutions. This means that you bring them extra value for, well, nothing. You do get paid, but you give them extra value. So when the next time they start thinking about certain visual problems, they might contact you instead of someone else. See what I'm going this with it? So basically you are building the trust of your client by being a professional and giving them more value, so they know that you know what you are talking about. Okay, so the second thing, the extra tip that you should do with clients is under promise, over deliver. What does this mean? Well, let's say you have, the client wants you to finish everything within 1 month. And you essentially know that you can actually do the job in, let's say, 20 days, but you negotiate 1 month just in case, right? This way, you know you have under promised, so you will get it in 30 days, and then you finish it in 20. So basically what the client thinks happened is, oh God, nice, this person promised me he will get it in 1 month, in 30 days, but he got it in 20 days. So you see, under promise, over deliver. Again, this helps to build trust, but at the same time, this is like sort of a safe period for you. So if you know you can make it in 20 days, in this specific case, and something comes up that you really weren't planning on, then you have extra 10 days, to work things through and actually finish it on time. And then if you finish on time, it's always nice. You stick to the deal, right? Win-win situation. And again, in their eyes, in the client's eyes, if you have over-delivered to them, this means, oh nice, this person is a lot faster, and he took this into consideration, that if the issues come up, he knew to have extra time for it. So we know that this person is good with time management, and these are all, again, extra points. And also he saved us some time, so we can now get 10 extra days for free basically, and see how this goes. And this is always very nice. So under promise and over deliver. So these are the main things when it comes to communication with client. Be respectful, be open and transparent. Then of course be professional, give them extra value, and then under promise and over deliver. Like I've said, how to communicate with people, like soft skills and stuff like that, this is really important. So you want to make sure that you are able to talk with different types of clients in a respectful manner. All right, and this pretty much comes with practice. So in my case, I was like 10 years ago, I was extremely shy and introverted. I mean, I'm still an introvert, but not so shy anymore. And essentially, because I knew my communication skills were lacking, I found a job at a telecommunications company, and each and every single day I communicated with 100 people, even more, both verbally, like person to person, and over the phone. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that. I'm just saying that if you are shy and you don't have developed communication skills, you should work on those, both verbally, so talking with other people, person to person, and on the phone. And you of course want to have that in written communication as well, so when you write things. Excellent. So again, unfortunately I don't simply have the time to go over many different examples like I did with this one, but if you want those, you can send me your examples and how you replied and what I think could have been done a little bit better. All right, so this is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Welcome back. So in this video, I will finally talk about where you can find your first clients and then how you can build up from there. So the first one on the list is of course ArtStation. Now, this is an industry standard, so you want to make sure that you have a portfolio here. But the jobs available are usually like senior position, intermediate ones, and occasionally you will find the junior positions, but mostly those will be for 3D artists and 2D like concept artists, meaning there really isn't many jobs for pixel art here, but if you manage to find some, great. If not, nonetheless, you want to have your portfolio here. All right, so let's go to the first serious one. That is Pixel Joint. Here on their job forums, again, you should put up your portfolio, because then you can get free views and free exposure. And essentially people come and look, and you can see everyone has like hundreds, if not even thousands of views, even tens of thousands in this case. And I'm pretty sure they landed some gigs from that. And again, not everyone is clients who looks. Some other artists might look through this, maybe some moderators, etc. But you definitely want exposure here. But the main thing here is looking each and every single day here over the job offerings. You can show up topics here and filter out by the amount of time. So let's say last 6 months, and you can see that within last 6 months, from let's say April to May, we have quite a lot of job offers. Now in this September, you can already see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11. And hell, even, oh, these are complaints. Anyways, basically more than 10 in this month. And you can see that each and every single month, you get around 10 different job offers. Some of them are unpaid, some of them are paid, depends, but some of them have like really tight deadlines. In a sense, they only need something quickly done, maybe within 4 to 5 days. Some of them are working on bigger projects, so you want to make sure that you check this out every single day, because once the post is here, they will get applications within 24 hours for sure, and multiple ones, and they will choose who they think is the best deal, and then they will work with them. So you want to be sure you are fast and check this each and every single day. All right, so again, I will talk to you about how you should approach clients, but for now, this is where you can actually find them. Moving on to the next one is the pixel art Reddit, or rather subreddit. Again, you can put here some job offers. You can say you are looking for a job, or you can even search through if someone is looking for a job. It happens rarely, but when it does, please be sure to apply. Now, when it comes to more serious subreddit for jobs, there is game dev classy fields. And essentially, they offer not only pixel art jobs, but they offer different artist jobs as well as developer jobs. So this is a good way for you to connect with other developers if you want to work on a free project or just something for fun, for hobby. But if you want, again, work for money as a freelancer, then you want to be sure you are looking out for jobs. Similar thing applies as on Pixel Joint. You can put up your resume like this person here. So he's an artist for hire, and he put up like a portfolio. He has something on DeviantArt and Instagram. Now DeviantArt is also a nice place where you can post your pixel art, but again, I would highly recommend that you definitely go on ArtStation and Pixel Joint. DeviantArt is cool and all, but if you want to be someone who stands out, you have to do things that other people basically are not. So go on ArtStation. Anyways, let's go, and just below you can see artist wanted. So you can filter out people who are looking for jobs based on the flare, and you can see that if I just look for pixel art, you can already see now this offer is 4 months ago, but let's go and look through other things. So look, 14 days, 9 days ago, 4 days ago, 21 hours ago, 26 days, 3 hours. They are looking for pixel artists. So you can also find within a span of month like about 10 offers a month. So combine that with Pixel Joint and you have pretty much offers almost every single day. And that's really, really cool. And both of these sites, Pixel Joint and Reddit, have both passive and active approach, meaning you can post your resume and your portfolio and hope someone will contact you. And you can be active, as in a sense you search for a job and then actually apply, which I recommend doing both. So you want to have both of these things. All right, so another thing is Fiverr. As the name suggests, people usually pay here your services for $5, or rather that is the minimum starting point. The Fiverr, however, takes 20% of all of your deals. So let's say you charge $10 for your pixel art. $2 would go to basically to Fiverr. and you would get $8. And again, $8 before they pay you out. You pay from transaction fees, your conversion fees, then your taxes, costs, etc. So, you know, $8 minus certain percentage of whatever your laws, local laws are. All right, so you want to put up your, again, portfolio here. You will be able to put only few images at the beginning. Let me give you an example. Now this is a level 2 seller. Let's find someone, let's say a new seller. Now if you see here, this person only has a few things in portfolio, and this is the restriction of, well, Fiverr. You can only put few things at a time, and only once your clients start taking your gig and you start delivering, then automatically what you have done for your client will be uploaded here as a basically as a part of your portfolio with their comment on your work of your client, of course, right? And this is quite nice. I did have a Fiverr account personally, and this is something that I want to cover in just a few moments. But basically you can see that you have levels of sellers. You have new seller, level 1, 2, and top rated. Top rated, there can be only one, of course, and this person is charging from, I believe, $10, yeah, from $10 all the way to $60 per sprite, which is quite a nice payment depending on the complexity. All right, now when it comes to other artists, well, you look here at like level 2, it can be pretty similar, like from $15 to $40 for level 2. But if you are just starting out, please be sure to have only you do only things for $5, and then when you level up to level 1 seller, then you can start charging a bit more. Now, why is this important? Well, like I said, I did Fiverr, but for a different reason. 2 years ago, or 2 to 3 years ago, I started a YouTube channel, Dual Color Studio, with my friend for tutorials for free. And I opened up a Fiverr account simply because I wanted to give my subscribers an option to get me to work for their projects, but for really small amount of money. So basically $5 per few sprites or animations, maybe even like review their own pixel art and improve it. Now, one thing that I got to level 1 seller, but the main thing here is that most of the clients I was getting were either from like my YouTube channel, which really wasn't big, like it was maybe 1,000 subscribers or something like that at the time. Right now it's like a 2,500. In any case, those things accumulate. So those people would come to your site on Fiverr and they would be your first clients. I'll talk about this in the future videos, but the other clients on Fiverr, usually if they find you simply by searching here like now, they are what I call low income clients, and I'll explain the types of those. But essentially you shouldn't expect too much from Fiverr, but if something nice happens to me, like it did to me, then it's great. And what happened? Well, essentially I got a client from which I got paid few $1,000s for the work I did, and it's something that I've put up in my portfolio. So right now the game is Chronicles of Dancer. They were looking for pixel artists of higher quality, and they weren't really able to find them like in Pixel Joint and stuff. They weren't happy with the quality, and you know, they managed to find me on Fiverr for who knows what reason, and I've been doing all of these like for them, right? And this enabled me to have like good paying client from Fiverr because they found me here. Now this really isn't something that you should count on, but you know, if it happens, great. And in that case, because Fiverr takes 20%, be sure to have a clear and open communication with your client that since it's a high paying job, you would like to take this communication elsewhere. And then this is what I did. I ignored Fiverr's rules, which is like you are not allowed to talk about money and stuff like that on Fiverr with other clients. I just ignored that and I took my communication elsewhere. And then I didn't have to pay who knows how many hundreds of dollars, which would be like 20% to Fiverr. And I really don't value like Fiverr that much, again, simply because those types of clients are very rare but if you do manage to find them, it's great, because there are few people who, just like these guys, they just went through Fiverr, they randomly picked people and hoped for the best, and if they managed to find, they were ready to invest some money in order to find a right person for the job, which they managed to do. All right, so these are the main sites. On Fiverr, you can basically expect to get a few gigs within like a week or two when you publish your gig, but be sure that your thumbnail is very attractive, because when I go here and look through these guys, and I just go with newest arrivals, you can see that some of them don't have any gigs at all, which is again okay, but don't expect too much. Take this as your starting point and then try to build up from there. Again, I'll explain how to do that as well. But to start earning money, Fiverr, pixel art Reddits or subreddits, general classy fields, and pixel joint, all of these together should give you at least one opportunity each and every single day for you to earn money. Now, those might not be clients that will pay you thousands of dollars, maybe not even hundreds, but each and every day you should be able to earn at least something. Maybe out of those, let's say 7 offers a week, you manage to catch one of them, or maybe you're able to catch one every few weeks. But the point is that you want to make enough money so you can make a living out of it, and this is the starting point. This is where you get your first clients. All right, so these are the basic websites where you can find your clients. In the future, in the upcoming videos, I will talk about where you will find other high-paying clients. I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. In this video, I will talk about different types of clients and their potential transformations. So essentially, we have 4 tiers. Number 1 is the lowest tier, which is basically the non-paying tier. Those are the clients you work for free. Quite easy as that. The next one is the low tier clients, or rather the low paying clients, and those are the people who pay you up to $10 per hour. Then you have the mid section, or rather the mid clients. Those pay between $10 to $30 per hour. Then you have the high paying clients, the high ticket clients, and those are who pay above $30 an hour up to 50 and even higher. Now, in a general sense, high ticket clients are the ones that you like earn more than $10,000 per month, and this is highly unlikely in pixel art specifically. But again, in pixel art, between $30 and $50 and even above that, I consider that to be like the high paying clients. So why does this matter? Well, if you only work for the non-paying and low-paying customers, what makes you qualified to work for high-paying customers? Right? Now, the higher the customer, the more money they're ready to invest, the more picky they are when it comes to who do they choose. Okay? And this is something that you should be very well aware of. So if you don't have any portfolio behind you, you don't have any project behind you, and you have a high-paying customer, high-paying client who is ready to pay $50 an hour, who do you think they're gonna choose? Someone without experience, or someone with experience and a nicer portfolio, right? But at the same time, you should be very well aware of how they think. So you need to put yourself in their shoes. For example, do you personally would pay someone $50 an hour to do the artwork for you or do the coding for you? Because if you are not ready to pay other people that service, do not expect that money to come to you, because you are not in that mindset. If you are only able or ready to pay someone else $10 per hour, you know how you think. This means you know what type of words to choose to negotiate with your client those $10 per hour. You need that mindset, because the way rich people buy things is different how mid-class buys things, and is different how like the poor people buy things. The mindset is different, and in order for you to get to those high-paying clients, you need to figure out how they think. So the basic way to do this is, of course, slowly build up. Now, when you start with small, so non-paying customers, you want to immediately move to low-paying customers. Try to think about when you negotiate with people, why did they choose you? Why did they pay only this amount of money and not more? Maybe it's the budget, maybe it's something else, but get into their head and try figuring things out, because that transition between low-paying clients and mid-paying clients, in order for them to transform, they themselves need to change. And that is what I call client transformation. This is when the client becomes from low-paying client to mid-paying client or even high-paying client. And this essentially happens when they are ready to pay for the value they will get. And this happens all the time on one spectrum, and it kind of happens rarely to you. And you should, on a global scale, it happens all the time, but for you specifically, right? There are so many clients on this planet that it's highly unlikely that the person or the client that you have worked with is going to transform into a higher paying client and contact you. So what I want to say is, the same way those clients transform their mindset, you want to transform your mindset. You want to understand, why are some people ready to pay $50 an hour instead of $10 an hour? You have two artists, they will do the same thing. One will charge $100 for it, the other is going to charge $1,000 for it. Both will get gigs, right? And both will do the job the same, but people might choose the guy with $1,000. Why is that? Now, this is something that I am not going to give you a clear answer, obviously, because this is something that you need to figure out yourself, because only that way you will be able to negotiate your prices yourself when the time comes for it. You will know what are people looking for in your words when you are trying to get to them. Okay, so of course I will give you a few hints, but I cannot really give you a straight answer. So the first one is, of course, trust, meaning security, and then the value you will get to them. So those are the few hints that will enable you to get to transform your mindset. Now, when it comes to clients, again, don't expect for that transition to happen. Think about this. Let's say you have a client and they come to you and they want to see how much you are charging. Let's say you are asking for $20 per hour, and they just say no, you're too expensive, and they go to someone else, and then they pay only $5 per hour to that person. Now, suddenly the game was successful and they have a lot more money. Do you think that person is gonna come to you for $20 per hour or to that person for $5 an hour? Most likely they will come to you, because their mindset has changed, because they have more money, bigger budget. The only reason why they haven't picked you is probably due to your due to how much you charge. And the person with $5 who was ready for that type of deal, they probably won't get it, because now the client thinks, okay, so this freelancer is worth $5 per gig, so it's only reasonable that the more I pay to the person, the more viable that person is. And in that sense, they will again trust you and not someone else, right? But you shouldn't be really making too big of a mistake. So let's say that same person came to you asking for $20 an hour, and then you negotiated basically the price and you agreed to do the job for $5 an hour. And again, their game is successful, they have higher, bigger budget. Do you think they will come to you or to someone else who rejected their offer and stick to the price $20 per hour? Trust me, they will go to that other person, because they didn't get picked only because they didn't have the money for them. Now that they do have the money for that person, they will go to that person. And they will not pay you because you were charging less. You were being cheap, so to speak, because you were charging $5, and now that they have more, why should they pay you $20 per hour? Even though they have the money to do it, if you get that gig again, they are not gonna pay you $20 an hour. They are still gonna ask you only $5. They will only give you $5 per hour, or maybe even like extra up to 10. But don't expect them to pay you 4 times as much when you are at fault here and you accepted the price which is a lot less than they actually are ready to pay. This is why they would go to the person who rejected them. Now again, if you are just starting out, it's completely okay if you earn $1 per hour, 5, 6, 7, it's okay. For beginning, it's okay. But when you want to build up, which I'll explain in the next video, you want to make sure you start charging more. And yeah, this is essentially, those are the types of clients. Again, 4 simple tiers: non-paying, low tier $0 to $10, $1 to $10, mid tier $10 to $30, high tier $30 plus. And again, their transformations do happen, but if those transformations do happen in a client, it's highly unlikely they will hire you again, right? So you want to be sure to catch the mid and high paying clients as soon as possible. And once you get to that level, do not be afraid to turn down offers. It's better to turn down the offer. Again, once you are regularly getting clients from mid tier or high tier, it's okay to turn down low and non-paying clients. It's completely okay, because if they get the funds, then they will able to like pay you for the amount you are actually worth, or you consider yourself to be worth. Okay, so this is it for now. I'll see you in the next video. Welcome back. In this video, I will explain to you how to upscale your business, or rather how to grow your business, or let's say if you aren't gonna have employees, rather how to start earning more money. Now there is one common thing that is pretty much essential to each and every business, and that is value. So try thinking about this. What is the most common thing people are looking for when they are buying things? It's value. And I'm not talking about like value in colors. I'm talking about real tangible value. When you buy a car, you are essentially buying the time, which you value more than the money you have invested in the car. For example, you buy the car so you can get faster to work, you can travel, etc. You are buying those capabilities from that car. So the car is bringing you value and you are paying for it, right? But not everything needs to be paid in money, right? Some things can be paid with time, etc., or other kinds of support. But why is this important? Well, because you need to bring as much value to other people as possible. So as much value as possible you can give to other people, the better. Simply because that's the way the community works, but also how the business works. When I talked about how you should communicate with your clients, I told you that you should always explain to the client the decisions behind your visual solutions. So when you give like game design tips and basically your thoughts to your client, you are bringing extra value to them for the same amount of money, right? So because you are more valuable that way, that means you are more valuable to them. I repeat, you are more valuable to them because you bring more value. Same thing applies across all of the fields. So I'll go over a few current situations and a few recent examples, because I like to be in touch with the time, and so you can clearly see from like a really small perspective how things work. Now, as a pixel artist, you have essentially 2 ways of scaling your business up. One is you start getting high-end clients, so high-ticket clients, so $30 per hour and more, and even middle section, the higher mid section. The other way is to build a community. So, and the community will support it, and I'll cover right now both of those. So where can you meet higher end clients? Where can you meet them? Well, try thinking about where are they, well, where they are actually, where they do go, where do they communicate with other people about business. And it's most commonly on game developer conferences, on game jams and stuff like that. So you want to visit those kinds of places and talk to people, communicate to people, connect with people. Connection in business is really important. Now, again, you can connect with people for emotional reasons because you want to build a community and have a good feeling, or you can build like connections for business sense, and you can actually do both of those at the same time. Now, when it comes to those clients, then when you meet people, talk to them, and essentially, once you have enough connections, you'll get more than enough jobs that you actually need to live comfortably with pixel art alone. But if you want other sources of income when it comes to pixel art, the other main thing is the community. So let me give you a few examples. You can see Pedro here on the screen. He has a Patreon page. He creates free tutorials. And basically, if you want to support him, you can support him. And what does this mean? Well, he brings value to the people. He gives something to the people, and if they choose to, they can support him. Now, they can support him for different reasons. Some people want special perks and do support him only because of that. Some people really want to support him because they expect more value from him in the future. Basically, they are supporting him so he can keep creating more tutorials. And then there are those people who just simply want to reward him because he gave them so much value, they feel inspired and they want to give him money, or they might even feel guilty because they got so much for free, so they want to reward him. In any case, those are the types of people that support him. He basically has 750 people who support him financially every single month. Every one of those maybe spends, look, on average like $2.8 or something like that. So it's not huge expense to those people in your community, but they support him. So essentially, two ways you can get more money. One, again, find clients who will pay you more money. And the second thing is find a lot of people who are ready to pay you smaller amount of money. Now, because finding a lot of people who are ready to pay you enormous amounts of money is obviously extremely hard. So these are the two like proven methods, so to speak. Now, how can you bring more value to the people? Essentially, create content. All right, so that can be blog posts, that can be free books, ebooks. You can create tutorials. Let me give you my personal example. I created a YouTube channel, Dual Core Studio, with my friend a few years ago, and we created like tutorials on game development and pixel art every now and then. We weren't really consistent. We just wanted to give something back to the community. We really weren't aiming for anything special. So after like 2 years, I decided to make a course and give some greater contribution to the community. And that way also I can build a community of specific type of people. And this is what I'm going to talk about in just a few moments. So basically, I created a course that on Udemy, which has a really low entry point. And essentially, I went with the model, a lot of people, but small amount of money, because essentially when I finish my course in total, like all of 200 plus videos, I could easily charge thousands of dollars for that course, but I don't want to. I want to build a community. I'm not interested in like high paying community members, right? I'm interested in building a close, tight community. But again, the bigger we are, the better. So please do join my Discord server if you haven't already. In any case, what is like the point of building a community? Well, there are many different goals in mind. You can again earn money. My personal goal is to build a community of pixel art experts where we will help each other out. So basically, if one of the members of the community is having financial trouble, we can all help him out by finding him clients if he cannot find him himself, right? which is really nice. Basically, building a community where we help each other not only in learning pixel art, but also financially by forwarding clients, etc. Okay, so something that we can all grow upon. And that again is bringing value, more and more value. So what happened when it comes to like pixel art course? Let me give you again a simple example. Now, when people are looking to buy things, they essentially are they essentially want to get as much value as possible for least amount of money. In general, on Udemy I'm talking about, right? So this means that people want, if you compare two courses of same price or even similar prices, and one course brings a lot more value than the other, then that course will get bought and the other probably won't, or they will both get bought, who knows. But essentially, the more value you give, the higher the chances you will actually get supported by people, right? On YouTube, the more videos you put up, free videos, the more value you give to the people, and the higher the chances they will support you. The more value you bring to the YouTube algorithm, the more videos you put out, the more YouTube will recommend your videos to other people again, right? This is just the YouTube. There are many different sites where you can actually have your internet presence be widened. But let me give you an example. So here we have my course, and you have like pixel art course for tile sets only, right? So when people look, even though this one is currently a bit cheaper, not sure why, but if they like try to decide which of these they should buy, they see 18 lectures are part of 86, also 8 hours about 5 hours. In my, I'll cover pretty much everything. In this course, it's gonna be only tile sets. So it's only natural that people are going to value this more, because to them, this might bring more value. Again, now I'm not bashing this course by any means, so I'm just going to quickly cover it. And I'm giving this example specifically because it has been published pretty much at the same time as my course, so maybe a few days apart. And in the first few couple of days, I got maybe 50 students from my YouTube channel, which had 2,000 subscribers, whereas this course for tile sets only got about 550 basically new students from, I believe, from subscribers. And the man who made this is Benjamin Anderson. He has a YouTube channel, Harbis, like over 100,000 subscribers, and I believe he does great things. So he does bring a lot of value to the people, and the community basically rewarded him. But what happened after those subscribers bought a course for me and him? He did have like 10 times more purchases within like first few days, but now after I believe 2.5 months, I have basically I have 1,700 students, while he has a bit over 1,000. Essentially, I have a lot more students, so which doesn't mean that I'm better by any means. No, definitely not. I'm just trying to explain to you how the system of value works at people. So when people are searching Udemy by default and they search pixel art, they're gonna try to find thing that brings them the most value for the same amount of money. All right, and this applies to all fields, not just to pixel art. So if you are making a game development course, make sure to provide as much value as possible. Okay, now again, this is really important to understand, because if you don't bring value to people, don't expect to succeed in business by any means. Giving value to people means that you are more valuable. So giving away free stuff here and there is really important, because you bring and give more value, and just bring them up, just like Pedro did, made a bunch of free stuff, and essentially he gave so much value that people decided to support him. Now let's talk about building a specific type of community. You need to figure out what kinds of people do you want in your community. Personally, I decided for one specific type of people, and I wanted someone who wants to improve themselves, but also at the same time they also want to be successful in game development field when it comes to finances. So you can find most of the things free online, but if you are ready to pay for something, that means you are ready to invest in yourself, in your knowledge. So you are ready to financially invest into something to improve yourself. This is you, the person who bought the course, and this is what I like about you by default, right? You're ready to invest in yourself, and I think this is a really important personality trait which I want my people of the community to have, right? So come and join the Discord server if you haven't already, Pixel World. There are so many topics that can be covered in this entire section, and I might not have covered all of them. So if there is something unclear, etc., just come and talk to me, right? And essentially, when you build a community, decide what kind of a community you want. And then once you decide, try thinking about how you can approach that community and how you can actually talk with that community. And same thing applies about community and clients. Be respectful to your community and be transparent. Don't try to lie your community. I mean, lies get easily discovered on the internet. So again, be transparent, be open, and be respectful towards your community, right? Because you are a part of that community. You won't be like more important than anyone else. No, you are worth just as much as everyone there in that community. Whatever you are trying to build, you might have a different role in that community, some sort of a leadership role, but nonetheless, you are not worth more than the others. So please be careful about that portion. You can approach this differently. If you want to create a pixel art course or any other course for that matter, where you charge hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars per student, that's completely okay. You can even do one-on-one mentorship when it comes to pixel art, and you can charge for that. You can approach this on many different levels and in many different ways. But essentially, you either will have high-paying clients or even high-paying like students, or you will have a bigger community that will then financially support you. It depends. And the best thing about this community is I'm trying to build a community where we support each other. So I'm not trying to build something that other people will support only me. No, I want to support other people, and I want those people to support each other. So I want to build nice, secure zones for game artists and game developers where we can essentially all have something in common. Of course, I don't expect to have like 1 million members of this community. It's not realistic, nor do I want. I want a nice, small community, and so where we basically know each other and we can actually build our entire careers upon it. And maybe people who don't want to be financially involved, they don't have to, right? But the point is, decide which way you want to go. Do you want to go with high-paying clients, or do you want to go with big community, right? So decide which one of those two interests you the most, then go for it. You can even do both of those things at the same time, but again, remember about what I said about focus. When you split your focus, you're basically not investing 100% into one thing. So one portion, let's say you decide to go 50-50. So half of the time you want to work with high-paying clients, and half of the time you want to invest energy into community. Well, in that case, you are building your community a lot slower than you could have. So again, something just to think about. You can find a balance between those however you want to. You can even have low-paying clients and then big community, or any type of combination. Really, what you need to do is find what is interesting to you and what you consider to be a sort of a business plan that will enable you to continue living by doing what you love. And remember, please do be relaxed and have fun through all of this process. That is the most important thing. I'll see you in the next video.